Here they come, okay. We ready back there? Terry? Okay. Call this meeting of the Rockport Select Board to order for Monday, April 11th, 2016. The first item on the agenda are approval of some minutes, and the published agenda had a number of errors on it. The Monday, November 9th minutes we had approved in February, as we did the Tuesday, November 17th minutes, and the Monday, February 29th meeting, we also approved at our March meeting. So we now are on Tuesday, February 9th meeting. And we have that in front of us. It was originally called for Monday, February 8th, but the snow date caused it to slide to February 9th, Tuesday,
Okay, where are we starting? February 9th?
February 9th.
I move to approve the minutes from February 29th, 2016.
February 9th.
February 9th.
Didn't I say February 9th?
You said
thought-
29th, I thought.
Okay, February 9th, 2016.
Okay,
We're starting off
Thank
this
you.
way.
okay. Did it get seconded?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, all right, discussion.
One item on page 6, which is that the interest rate at the first was very favorable, and I think there's a decimal point missing there. It should be 0.85% instead
Oh.
of 85%.
Favorable to whom?
Yes,
Wow, that's nice.
yeah,
That's the only correction I had.
okay. Any other? Hearing none, all in favor accepting as amended? That is unanimous. Our next one is Monday, March 14th, which we have in front of us.
I move to accept the minutes from March 14th, 2016.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Jeff. For discussion, do we have any?
One correction that I have.
Yeah?
On page 6, I need to correct my comment, my second comment on the page about 4 lines down. I've been referring to the MET school. I said it was the only architecturally interesting building on the campus, not in all of Camden.
Oh, so, okay, so only,
I'm surprised you're still alive.
So,
these haven't been published yet, so Camden didn't know about your slight.
good.
Okay, so it's, on the campus. Any other changes? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting as amended? That has passed. The next one is Wednesday, March 16th, executive session of the Select Board.
So I move to accept the meetings from the executive session for March 16th, 2016.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? That passes. Now for the regular budget meeting on Wednesday, March 16th.
Move to accept the meetings of the Wednesday, March 16th Rockport Select Board meeting as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do we have any changes here? I went through it, didn't see it. No? Okay, we're all good? All in favor accepting? Okay. And then Thursday, March 24th,
I move to
special meeting.
I move to accept the minutes from March 24th, 2016.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any changes? Omissions or errors? No? Okay. No? All right. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we got 5. We do not have the special meeting from April 1st, Friday, April 1st in front of us, so that will need to be tabled. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor to table? Thank you. And then the last one is Wednesday, April 6th, special meeting of the Select Board.
This is wrong. I move to accept the minutes for April the 6th, 2016.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, all in favor?
Abstain.
Yeah, he wasn't there.
Abstained, that's correct, you were not there. All right. We now move on to some announcements. The first one is that our next regular select board meeting will be Monday, May 9th, 7 PM here at the Opera House, and it will be live streamed.
Isn't the 19th the next regular schedule?
Read the next line. There is a special select board meeting and public hearing to be held on Tuesday, April 19th, 2016, 7 PM here at the Rockport Opera House Meeting Room, and it will be streamed, live streamed. I think that's correct. Some more announcements. Candidate nominating papers are available. Please see the town clerk. Papers are due back no later than the close of business on Friday, April 29th, 2016. Later in our agenda tonight, we will be accepting the resignation of one of the members of the library committee. So there are two regular positions on the library committee up for election, held by Ms. Stephanie Cumble and Kate Monroe. The resignation is from Michelle Gabrielson, and that will be for a one-year term expiring June 2017. In addition, there's a one-year term on the select board for Ms. Murphy, and three-year terms for the budget committee held by Sharon Stone, Jan Rosenbaum, and John Veman. And finally, there's one three-year term as director of MSAD 28 and would co-serve with the combined school district. Gretchen Richards is currently serving in that one. The Rockport Town offices will be closed on Monday, April 18th, in observance of Patriots' Day. And there will be a pesticide workshop sponsored by our Conservation Commission on Thursday, April 28th, 5:30 PM here in the meeting room, and that we expect to live stream as well. All the other announcements are in the published agenda.
I do have one
Yes.
change.
Okay?
For the ad hoc library planning committee, there's another meeting to be added on April the 20th.
Yes.
And there's also one on April the 27th. I was told that both of those would be at the town office, but we may have gotten an email that said something different. I can't
Yeah,
remember what
I was
dates they
told that
were.
only the 20th would be at the town office.
Okay, so that's what we're
And then
changing
the
to?
rest of them were
Okay,
coming over here.
okay.
Okay? Those two meeting, the 27th meeting is in the announcements. The 20th meeting we just became aware of. There are committee openings, and they are in the published agenda. Agenda changes. Do we have any agenda changes for tonight?
I have a quick
Oh,
question
quick
to the
question.
ad hoc. Do we want to characterize the reason that they've added a meeting or what that meeting's about? Is that just normal?
No, we just, after the architects did their presentations, we hadn't put together a schedule. So the original schedule that got put forward was by the actual architects, but we needed some meetings for the group to meet. So it was just, it took time for us to all catch up with each other.
Thank you.
The wheel turns slowly. An agenda change.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we move the wastewater commissioners portion of our meeting up until the start of new business, I think is what.
No,
we-
actually, I would prefer to see it after the request by Fox on the Run.
Okay, so after the request by Fox on the Run, I would like to enter as wastewater commissioners at that time and
Okay?
take care of both items on that agenda.
Okay.
I'm not sure that she's gonna, I don't think she's gonna be here.
Oh, she's not?
No, because this was
Oh.
her third year, I don't.
No,
think-
no, not
Fox
Fox
on
on
the
the Run. I'm talking about the
Wastewater.
wastewater people and the Hiwa Tofu request. Are those people here tonight?
I had let the business owner know that if I thought you were on track to do it before 8:30, I would text him or email him. So what does this change mean for your timing?
Oh,
Depends how the vote goes.
yeah,
10:30.
not 10:30.
Well,
no.
let's move it to Fox on the Run, and right after that, and then Jamie, you can text at that point. That gives them enough time, I think, because we're gonna be a half an hour before we get there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Why don't you text them after we finish the committee appointments?
Very good.
That way we'll have a better idea. Okay, are we all in favor of that move, the change?
I guess so.
Fine with me.
Okay. Public comment. Public comment should be directed at issues not under discussion on this evening's agenda. Comment from the public will be welcome prior to each agenda item. Further comment will be granted only by permission from the board. All public comment should be brief and to the point. Does anyone wish to make public comment this evening? Oh, all right. Then we will go on to the town manager's report, which we were provided with tonight.
You have a printed copy of it, and I'll try and scan through the high points of it. First on my report is the recognition of 2 employees who have met milestones in their employment. The first one being Deputy Town Clerk Brenda Kerr for 15 years of service to the town of Rockport as of April 23rd. So we have Brenda, we tricked Brenda into coming here. I didn't bother trying to trick the chief into coming, but, so we tricked Brenda into coming here, and we have a little token back there.
Oh, one of these things?
Yes.
Oh.
Get the right one.
right.
That's
the B.
It's the one with the B. There you go.
Oh,
So
okay.
Brenda, if you want to come up here, we can.
It may be a moment before I figure out how to open this thing. Oh, here we go. This comes out.
Congratulations.
Yes, I probably do too.
Congratulations.
Here, here we go.
It's a cigar box. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you like cigars. I understand somebody brought them back from Cuba for you.
All right.
There we go.
Secretary of
Gee,
State.
this is really, awesome. I mean, I can't even get it
If
open.
he does say so himself.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start the other one now.
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. All right, let's see what we have. Oh, look at this. Brenda, commemoration of your service. You get this piece of. No, seriously, Brenda, congratulations and thank you for your years of service.
Thank
So.
you. Oh, Owen's busy packing up.
Owen's unpacking.
Come here, like this.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
boys.
you.
Boys and girls, So,
So when the chief comes up here, we'll have to do the same thing.
You have to lean over so far.
yeah.
There you go. So,
Yeah,
here's all
there
the
we go.
pieces.
Yeah, we're gonna give you all the pieces back because disposal of styrofoam in town is hard.
Good. Whoever conned her into doing it. Good work. Good work.
She wasn't even suspicious.
You?
No, I thought I had to work, and that's probably
Oh, there's something else in,
It's like a rubber foot or
oh,
something.
yeah, I think it's just to make sure it stays put on your desk. So, but,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you make it? Oh, you got it.
Turn around and smile at the cameras.
And so the next one is for Police Chief Mark Kelly, who hit his 30-year milestone on March 27th. Began here March 27th, 1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was born in '84.
And it even says here,
Say that, didn't you?
even says here, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it says, "The beginning." You want to reflect on your years, the 30 years?
The only thing I've got to say is I hope everybody that currently works here and will, in the future, will experience the same warmth that I have from the town and the people. I mean, it's a great place, so,
Very, yeah. That's-
Very good.
anyway, thank you.
And Brenda? So, I'm gonna give you this.
Yeah, with the little, yeah.
You get a little extra tab. I guess that goes down there and they couldn't quite get it on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
I wasn't able to trick him
Thank
into
you.
it.
Yeah. Well, remember, I think we used him to trick someone else into
Yeah,
being here.
Yeah,
So
Travis.
he's not gonna fall for that same
Was there
trick
that
twice.
little foot thing? Yeah,
Oh.
here, there's a little piece.
Oh, yeah, the box and
Box.
stuff is back there.
We'll get you all the little bits and pieces later. Yeah, all the styrofoam and everything is back here.
All right, now,
So, as far as with Public Works and our infrastructure infrastructure projects, those bids came in, we did really well on those bids. I gave you an updated report, which shows some slightly changed numbers. The biggest factor in all of this was the Mill Street Bridge project, which we thought was gonna be in the vicinity of $600,000. After we did all the engineering and everything that Gartley and Dorsey did, we were able to get a much better project, and the bid price came down to $161,777. It's the benefit of having the engineering firm being able that knows DEP and was able to get it done, so the design came in really much simpler than expected. So, and this is important to us because both School and Summer Street came in higher than was expected, particularly on Summer Street because of the sidewalk works, Mike? Sidewalk and more drainage. So that came in higher, but bottom line is, at the end of the day, it looks like we're gonna be $125,000 to $145,000 to the good on these projects. And that's with doing the Pascal Ave, high sidewalk. We were really worried about that because of the
Yep.
It's gonna look different because the new requirements for construction of that kind of sidewalk require a pretty substantial fence barrier to go up on the top because it's more than a 6-foot drop. The handrail, it's not gonna be just the pipe handrail. We can't do that. It's not allowed anymore. So that came in at, I can't remember what that bid price came in, but it came in.
$195,278 for the
Right.
bid.
We came in under the 200.
Yeah,
Or in the end,
Well-
over.
right.
But not by much.
But that, and in the end, it's over because of the engineering. Because we do,
There may be some charges left possibly with poles, we don't know.
right, yep, relocating the poles. And the other place that there's potentially some changes is in the Mount Pleasant Street. What we're looking at is we have enough money to move forward on Mount Pleasant and do all the work we had planned on, and potentially pave the first 500 to 600 feet going up the hill when as it ends the pavement and it starts up the hill, the worst part of the hill, where we have the most trouble plowing, the most trouble, there's some serious problems with ruts there. If we get that paved, that'll help clean up that entrance to the Mount Pleasant Street without having to pave parts of the road that people really don't want to see paved. And then the other place where we might have another place where we may use a little bit of that money is in the West Rockport Fire Station. We had pretty much just quick and dirty $85,000, just build enough to just squeeze the truck into the station. We may want to spend a little bit more money and get that little piece of addition done right, particularly if we do own the piece of land next door. So we may want to consider that also. But there's also a savings in the roof option for the Public Works garage that we had originally budgeted about $120,000, and that $120,000, and that was to remove the old roof and put on a whole new roof. And there's an option out there that Mike and Gartley and Dorsey have been looking at, which is to basically go in and put another layer of the firm Blue Board insulation on top of the roof and fasten that down, and then put a rubber membrane on top of that. And so it will add another R value to the insulation, and the total cost of that is only about $45,000 as opposed to $120,000. So that will help us also. So the good news is, once again, we'll be under budget on what we thought we were going to have to spend, so that'll be good news for the taxpayers. And we're not having to scrimp or cut corners on any of the projects.
Is that a quick one? I know that I've heard from some people on Mount Pleasant Street that they
really, really enjoy living on a dirt road, and I don't know in my head where those people were as it relates to this 500 or 600
They're
feet.
further up at the top
Okay,
of it.
so you're not envisioning the neighbor. You're going by the neighbor's house and they're gonna raise a stink. Just make it because that's why they picked that road.
Exactly. They're further up the hill.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the beginning part of the hill. When you go up there, it gets pretty nasty there, and it's in the wintertime, it's hard to plow it. That hill gets really difficult to plow. So this will make our ability to plow it a lot better. We'll do a much better job for people trying to climb the hill. Once you get up to the top where it's flatter, it's a lot easier if there's a little snow on it. And if we don't do as good a job plowing, but when the hill is bad, it makes it really difficult to get up and down there.
Will we be doing all these projects this summer?
Yes, I think they'll all be done this summer. The Pascal, the high sidewalk will be done in the fall. I think the start date is September, just because we're not gonna do that until the traffic drops off in the fall. We don't wanna start it now and be doing construction in June and July.
Okay.
So we'll start that in the fall. We'll be holding public hearings on the road construction work so that the people, particularly on School Street, Summer Street, and the Mill Street Bridge project, that there'll be an opportunity for people to get a chance to see what's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, and how it will impact them. I don't think we've set up a date for the public hearing yet,
No. Hoping to be the first week of next month.
the first week of May.
Mill Street Bridge should be working on that. I think it was August.
Yeah, August.
So we can have it open for the school bus.
Right.
The
And it has,
road will be closed.
and it has to be done during low water, because that road will be closed probably 3 weeks. That, it'll be not just, you won't be able to travel through there, period. There'll be a hole in the ground there. So, you're not gonna be able to get through for about 3 weeks. So, that road is a cut-through road for a lot of people.
Yep.
So that is gonna be a challenge, though. Mike has been looking at potentially getting a sign further up on the other end, saying that the road is closed to through traffic, so people won't get all the way down to the end and then realize that the place is closed. And also talking to the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship, because people are liable to get down to the end there and then wanna cut through their yard to get out. So,
Be good if we could put signage up in advance too, so that people
Yeah.
know,
Right.
starting next week, it's gonna be
exactly, yep.
closed.
Oh, yeah. Because my guess is that the people that use that road use it regularly, and it's a cut-through that they use all the time. The Keep Rockport Beautiful group, as you remember, they picked up a lot of trash last year. Their goal this year is to get a ton of trash. This isn't for people to go out and deposit trash on the roads. Their goal is to be able to do an even better job, have more volunteers, and get a ton of trash off of the road, and to do it earlier before it gets greened up too much, so that they can get in and see the trash. Because that was the problem the last time. It was so grown in that they can't see the trash.
Yeah.
These people it's an amazing group of people that they've also been starting to help volunteer for other projects as well, the 125th group, and also, there's another, they're working on the 125th, and I think they've got another place that they're reaching out. The Technology Committee is moving forward very well. They're meeting, I think, every other week now. They've really taken on the responsibility of the fiber project and have started to develop a plan of getting information out to people, and that information campaign will be going on before the vote in June.
Okay.
So, one of the challenges for me in this past month is I just feel like I've gone from one meeting to another meeting to another meeting to another meeting to another meeting.
Spent a
You
lot
can-
of time together.
You can lend him your shoulder.
I know, I know.
Right? Yeah.
So, but one thing I did was able to do the ICS training at Knox County, which helps us towards our NIMS compliance. And Jason is doing a tabletop, I think
That's
it's
right.
2 weeks from now.
All right, that was the one you found, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a tabletop
20
exercise.
6th or
21st.
21st or 21st, something like that.
And I'm sure that it's a really easy, simple thing for me to find out all the bits and pieces to become NIMS compliant. It's just, since I've been here on this board, it's been another thing to become. What are our final, and we can talk offline, but I'm just wondering,
The
do we
whole
have,
list.
do we have
You
the
have-
list though of?
You have one class that you have to take.
I think he's
Well, we
already
did
Oh,
take
he's
Yeah,
taken that,
definitely,
then-
yeah,
then
definitely.
He's
you-
all set.
Yeah.
He's all set. I think the next pieces of it are Jason is working on the training to make sure all of the other staff that need to be trained have the necessary training. So we also hired Keith Drago as the new deputy library director. His start date is Tuesday, April 19th. He comes to us from the Rockland Public Library, and he has his master's degree in Masters of Library and Information Science. So.
Very good.
Yeah, so now we're back up to full staff. Ben has completed his Library 101 training for new library directors. 78 people participated in the Easter egg hunt.
You did the.
Oh, okay.
The concerts.
Oh, one of the things that the library has been starting to delve into a little bit was some more of a music series, and they did their first concert, and hopefully we'll see more of those. They're planning on getting a new sign for the temporary location up as quickly as possible. Mike is going down to, at some point, to try and straighten up the sign, because the posts are doing kind of like this. And Ben also attended the Maine State Library Association's meeting about Children's Protection Act as it relates to the internet.
Before you move on to that, Helen was able to attend that concert,
Oh, yeah.
and she said she just really enjoyed it. In fact, she got both the CDs,
Oh,
so
really?
she can play them in the car. Yeah.
It wasn't terribly well attended, but it was, I think that's one of those things that you just have to build up a following for and have some regular series, and eventually people will start going. The harbor, Abby and her deputy both attended the,
Can I go back to that?
yeah, sure.
It wasn't terribly attended because we have the room, but for that type of event, it was well attended in this neck of the woods.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, in the sense that our friends to the north have a room this size that they have a lot of events like that in.
yeah.
And it's one out of every 4 of those will pack it to,
Oh, okay.
and we had more than that upstairs. So
Yeah, we had a
in that metric
I
of
don't,
success.
He's not here, but I think the count was,
We had about 78 people.
yeah, it was pretty good.
So I just want to throw that in.
Yeah, and the goal is that we see more of that. I'd love to see more of that from the library. So Abby and the deputy attended their annual harbor master training in Castine. Abby had a blast. She loved it, right, Abby? Yeah. Yeah, right. One unusual thing that has been going on is there's been a lot of mooring reissues this year. A lot of people are giving up their moorings and they're being reissued to other people. The new floats, Abby has been working with the Public Works guys on getting the new floats. Those are the floats where the heron is. That when we pulled those out of the water, they basically disintegrated as we pulled them out. So we've been rebuilding those for the past couple weeks. Any idea time frame, Mike?
Probably the end of next week.
Yep. They're getting really proficient at putting those docks together, because it's a pretty much standard thing. They've really gotten pretty good at it.
Can I ask a question about moorings? So people aren't applying for their moorings. Are you concerned at all about that? I know we have a wait list, so like the mooring's gonna change hands, it's no big deal. But is this a trend that you're seeing, that people are switching to a different harbor?
This is what I would like to consider based on a little bit of pressure from me and a little bit of, just to move it along. Because some of these folks that have actually passed it on are you know, haven't had a boat in a while, or just, you know, don't use their mooring a lot. So it was sort of, it all sort of came together at once. A couple of people folks sold their boats, but no, I mean, and actually I think 9 that I have to reissue are all fairly good spots. What I run into is the outside moorings, turning those over, because people will wait and they don't want to wait for an outside, you know, wait,
Right.
you know, past Beauchamp Point or something. They're waiting for something a little bit better. So I enable them to stay on the list and decide whether they want to or not. So it ends up being a little bit of an administrative nightmare, so to speak. But no, but to answer your question, I don't necessarily think it'll be a trend. It's just, and we have plenty of folks, you know,
Yeah.
looking for something. So.
Okay, thank you.
You were talking about doing some work down there on the commercial side of the harbor this spring, where mainly lobsters park.
We still are.
We saw, okay, because I had a question about it, because the storm end of last week pushed a lot of stuff up in there and brought it up from underneath, so.
Yeah. I'm not sure when Mike's been working on that to get ready to go on that. I think we've got a couple of bids in, a couple quotes in to get that work done.
Hopefully next month we'll be able to do the work.
So the fire department, the chief has started work, completed his shape inspection, which is a
He's in shape?
shape.
Yeah.
No, it's a labor inspection to make sure all our records are all in place, all our training is up to date, and all of those pieces have been done. And so that was the first step, and so now he's working, the next big one will be Mike, so he's gonna take what he learned on his certification on the fire department and move that over to the Public Works Department and then the harbor as well. And so the SHAPE program stands for Safe and Health Award for Public Employers. So the definition is in your packet here. The chief has also been working on the NIMS compliance, you know, to make sure all our paperwork is in order and our training procedures are documented. So that's been moving along. As happens a lot, is our fire department responded to a fire in Rockland, and we had a very good turnout to that. The package of fire safety gear for Fire Safety Week has been received and it's been put into use. Also, that because of our proximity to MRC, MRC is cooled using ammonia, the chief went to a ammonia training session. Engine 24 is being turned into a forestry truck, and also the department did a brush burn. I think you probably saw it in the paper over at the school where they went in and they burned around the ball fields to help control ticks, get the brush down directly around the ball fields to keep ticks down. Public Works, the department's still doing spring cleanup. You know, the damage from snow removal, straightening up signs, digging out ditches, all of that. The ditch work, you know, it seems like it's not all that important, but the work that they do on the ditches is preventative. And when we get big rainstorms, we don't get a lot of washouts because they're pretty aggressive about making sure that the ditch work is being done. You'll hear, probably not next month, but the month after, Mike, will we be coming to the board? One of the things we'll be looking at is if we have some savings in the Public Works budget is to potentially buy a piece of equipment, a small excavator that will help with the ditch work, because the backhoe is, while it can do the job, it's not very efficient at it. And so a small excavator, we would get a lot of work out of that. It'll come to you just because I'm not gonna make that kind of purchase without you guys knowing that, because it wasn't something that was planned. So, I'll make you aware of it before it actually happens.
Is that like rubber track small or?
Yes.
And it would be rubber track too for the asphalt?
Yep. So the grader, as you heard, they've been doing a lot of work on the harbor floats, and so they've been getting that done. The grader, which I think you remember last year was broken down. We've finally gotten that back up in service, and it was done at a very reasonable cost. I think it was $3,000, about $3,000. So that's up and ready to go for the spring when we can get out there. Police Department reported that they've been dealing with an unusual amount of domestic disputes and OUIs over the past month. Also, they've been doing a lot of review of their policy and procedures manual, they do that annually around in April. General assistance, the numbers in general assistance have been going, it seems kind of counterintuitive that we see a lot of general assistance things now, but what happens is typically the shut-off notices for electricity shut-off notices start going out. People have burned through all of their available cash, and they're up against a wall now of trying to, make ends meet. So we do end up seeing a lot of general assistance requests at this time of the year. And also, there's been some changes in the local temporary housing options that has made it more of a challenge for Stacy to find additional housing when it's needed. And it seems like we've had several requests for housing in the past couple of weeks. The assessing department, Kerry's been working, as you know, in both towns, and that seems to be working very well. And we also use Caitlin for the first time from Camden to help with the inspections here in Rockport. So that does speed up it does speed things up for him getting those inspections done. So it's not just twice as fast. Sometimes it's a little even faster than that, having two people that are working through that inspection process. As you heard, the nominations papers are being taken out through the town's clerk's office, and so that adds an additional layer of work. And also, I heard today that they brought in $500,000 today.
And taxes are due this Friday.
Taxes are due. So they've been very, very busy in there. Planning and Community Development, Jamie has been working on the broadband grant, which is due, when's that? Friday? This Friday. Which, it's a long shot for us, but I think we're gonna, we'll try and put together the best package we can, and hopefully they'll see some value to it. The Avena Botanicals is moving forward with their Community Development Block Grant, and that hearing is when? It's coming up?
Next Tuesday,
is it-
isn't it?
Special town meeting.
Yeah.
We have to advertise.
We had the public hearing last
Yeah.
time.
Two steps, but starting on Tuesday next week.
Okay, yep. ORC has finished, I believe, their series of meetings, but are you looking at potentially doing something over the summer?
Perhaps, yeah. We could talk about that in liaison reports.
Yeah, they had a particularly busy season this year, very busy season. The planning board has received a new site plan for Jeff's Vacuum, who is building a new building, correct, Jamie? You have-
Believe it or not, Jeff is looking at other options now.
Oh, strike that.
Is he gonna stay in Rockport though?
I wouldn't like to speak for the business owner, but he's
Okay.
doing his best, I'm sure.
Okay,
It's a busy month at the planning board, rest assured. 3 site plans, 2 subdivision applications, all of a sudden.
our building permits are picking up. We had 18 in the month of March. And,
For a while.
yeah. And finance, with the budget for the most part behind us, Megan is back to being able to get to work on some of the other things. And we'll be executing the credit card payment process in the harbor. I think Megan said she bought the Trio software to execute that, and that will happen for this summer. And once we get the bugs worked out of that, then we'll start working on other departments. You have the quarterly budget in your,
Came with us in the back.
okay, in your package. And so and then you have a new project table to supplement the one that's in the back of your report.
Any questions of the town manager? Then let's move on to unfinished business. The first item here is the move of the Glen Cove Veterans Memorial to the property owned by Bradford Gore and Wanda Orr. When we last spoke about this, the requirement was that American Legion came to us and said, would you please not move it down into the Glen Cove Rest area? And they had worked with the adjacent property owner about having it relocated to their piece of property, and we said we would be good with that, provided that there was an easement placed on the deed to provide the easement for those memorials there. And that has been accomplished. The easement deed is in our packet tonight. What I would suggest we do is authorize the town manager to begin directing Public Works to start the preliminary work on that. Does anybody want to speak to that, is here to speak to this tonight, before we start our discussion? I guess not. All right. So, pretty much that's what it is, that, we need to, give him permission to go ahead. We have the easement, so it is legitimate that we use town equipment to set the base and begin and work on the actual physical move of that memorial. Any question? Yes.
So I was at the Legion meeting last Thursday, and they very much intend to have dedication on Memorial Day for it.
Good,
They
because that's
wanted
my
to-
next item, yeah.
Yeah, and they wanted to know how involved we wanted to be. I said, because I don't think it was going to be a town event. I said, talk to the town people if you want some town officials to show up. But I was like, I don't know where, but I just couldn't envision. Rosie had no problem. He thought everyone could just like magically float up and over Route 1. It wasn't going to be a problem. They can all park down to Glen Cove, and I was like, I just couldn't see how we would like feel comfortable saying, yeah, park on this side of Route 1 and walk across. But
It's a good distance down from the rest area.
So, but they've got a plan. It's in Rosie's head, and I'm sure it'll all work out great.
What time?
I don't know.
Oh, because it's in Rosie's head.
It's in Rosie's
Yeah.
head.
Because, because a lot of those that are gonna be there are gonna be in the Camden Parade, followed by the Rockport Parade,
Followed by Lincolnville.
lunch over at the Masonic Center, followed by Lincolnville.
Followed by Lincolnville Take 2 at Frohawk.
Okay,
Oh yeah, it's fun.
what time are they,
I don't know.
well, would you get back to us? Because I wanna
I
be
will
there.
for sure let you know. I know that I believe our first cycle of the honor guard, which I'm sure that they're going to want to carry on, that starts at 9 o'clock for Camden. Then we go to Rockport. Then we do the lunch. But so the day starts at 9. What time they're thinking for the end of it all, I'm not sure.
Do we want to give some guidance to our ad hoc liaison in terms of it would be nice on the rededication to have an official presence there and to pull, by virtue of that, pull people down, parking notwithstanding. But we make enough of a dent in the parking just by going along at 35 miles an hour.
Rosie had it worked out. He was going to reach out to the police and try to
Okay.
do some sort of safe crossing. I will be there. I'll probably be in uniform with gun, so not in any sort of town capacity.
But that's okay.
Yep.
I'm appointing you as our unofficial official liaison.
Been doing
to
it for a
making this
while,
happen,
and we
so
have fun.
Okay.
I have fun with my Legion boys.
Okay.
I
would assume it'll be sometime in the afternoon.
yes, I would make that
After the
assumption as well.
Lincolnville
Yep.
issue, so
That
we
would
just
be-
needed, a reasonably good time.
I thought that the way that I had worded it at the meeting was appropriate.
Okay.
They maybe didn't understand the words that I said. What I said to them when we were done talking about all the Glen Cove stuff was, hey, just so you know, the town has expended some resources with legal fees, and I'm just curious, does anyone here have any desire to maybe allocate some funds to help the town defer costs? To which they said, now what kind of dummy on your board would ask a question like that? And I said that dummy would be me, and that I didn't speak for anyone else, and there was a little bit of So if they reach out to you and they're like, we ain't giving you any money, you can blame it on me.
Okay.
But I just
Yeah.
did ask if it was something that they would consider, and it didn't seem like they would.
Okay. So, for now, for planning purposes, we'll just think about it as sometime mid-afternoon.
Do we need a motion to direct the town manager to do all this stuff? Or-
Yeah, we should.
I think that would be
All right, well, I
appropriate.
will move then to direct the town manager to start the process of relocating the memorials in Glen Cove. How's that?
Have it in time for the Memorial Day.
Yeah, okay, yeah. With completion in time for Memorial Day.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
What he really said is with expected completion, because we don't know what might come up.
Where did Mike go?
ran
That was
away.
amazing.
He ran away.
Yeah, he was
I
good.
didn't want to hear that.
He knew what his marching orders are, so all in favor? That is good. We have no public hearing this month, well, this meeting, I should say.
So did you set a time? You just set the time as being flexible?
Probably
Somewhere
mid-afternoon.
To be informed by
Yeah.
Owen.
Okay.
And I'll reach out to them, but if you run into Frank Carr is
Mm-hmm.
the post commander, and Rosie Gary of Town of Lincolnville, he's always a good source.
My guess is the second half of the afternoon by the time you're done up in Lincolnville.
Okay, let's move on to new business. We have no gifts to acknowledge this month. Committee resignations, we have several committee resignations. They have all been presented to us. Somebody had asked me, whoa, look at all those coming off the anniversary committee. And I had already spoken with Linda Clancy, and she has a plethora of additional people have already volunteered and are diving right in. What?
Would you say I have a plethora of sweaters?
All I heard was buffer. Sorry.
Where's my Yankee accent? You know, I'm trying to sound like Steve. No, they have a number of additional people who have already stepped forward and are actively involved in this. And as you recall, we gave them the authorization to recruit additional members as they saw fit. These were part of our original batch that we actually voted on. And so it would be appropriate to thank them as well, and accept their resignation. Yes. So, we do have resignation letters from Larry Goldman and Michelle Gabrielson in our packet, along with, I believe, all the rest.
A whole bunch of them.
Yeah. But I would entertain a motion to accept with appropriate acknowledgement.
I move to accept the resignation of Larry Goldman from the Ordinance Review Committee and have the board sign a letter expressing him for his service. Thanks for his service.
For his service, yes. Yeah. It's mo-
Second.
Moved and seconded. And as you notice, he is also making application to join a different committee. So, all in favor? Very good.
Move to accept the resignation of Michelle Gabrielson from the Library Committee and have the board sign a letter expressing thanks for her service.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And,
I have a quick question
Yeah.
on that one for Linda, and that is, if any of the people who had already returned papers for the 3-year seats want to shift to the 1-year seat, would they have to file new papers for that?
Yes, they would.
Okay,
okay. Which means new set of signatures.
right.
Okay.
I just wondered about that, because I think there are a large number of people running for the 3-year seats, and I just
I
wondered.
had one person take out papers for the 1 year.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Okay, and I'll say she has had a lot of turmoil in her personal life and has to step back. So with that.
Hang on just
yeah.
for a second, just for further clarification. The 1-year seat, if there's only one person, they're running unopposed for that seat. It's a separately counted portion of it. Thank you.
It was like when Perry Beble resigned from the library committee, and there were two people up for,
right, a
one for the
2-year and
3-year, one for the 2-year at that point, so. All right, we have the motion to accept. All in favor? That is unanimous.
Talk later.
Why don't we handle the next 4 as one? So, yes, the 125th anniversary committee.
Let's see,
There's-
3.
There's only 3.
Mr. Hunter also gave his resignation.
Yeah.
and I
Oh, okay, that's not here. Okay. Well, then I'll move to accept the resignations of Allison Putas, Lynn Johnson, and Stephanie Cumble, and Vernon Hunter from the 125th Anniversary Committee. Have the board sign a letter expressing thanks for their service.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And I have to say, the service was really, really welcomed, and boy, they did a great bang-up job on what we've done so far. So,
I mean, it's nice that we're having this event as two parts, so we don't burn everybody out, and that there's other people that are willing to come in and help as well.
Well, and it's a natural break point, I think,
Right,
between the two
right.
events, and as everybody said, they did a terrific job with the first stage events.
other comments? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All right, that is. Now we have two committee applications, one from George Benson to return to the Zoning Board of Appeals. George? George? He's not here tonight. Okay. We do have his application, and I believe you really want it approved tonight because you've got all those things coming up on the 2nd, right?
It would be very helpful.
There's also,
It's a different
Incomplete.
type of application than usual because he served on this board before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the first to say, it's really good news that we're trying to narrow down what the ZBA does. He thinks now it will be a better fit in his schedule than it used to be.
Okay.
and I was a comment that we had a note from the chair of that committee expressing support for his nomination.
Yeah, he started his service on the end of my 15 years on that board and was certainly an asset to the board.
Okay.
I did.
Any other comments, discussion? All in favor? All in favor? That is unanimous.
Not sure
Very
we
good.
actually ever had a motion, but that's all right, we'll make believe we
Oh,
did.
did we?
Yeah. Well, this-
Oh, we didn't, okay, let's back up. Could we have a motion to accept his nomination?
I move that we
Or his
accept
petition.
the nomination, accept George Benson on the zoning board of appeals, for a term to, expiration of June 30th of 2017.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Now, do we want to vote? Let's vote. Thank you. That's now unanimous again. Oh, I was worried there. We also have the application from Larry Goldman to join the Opera House Committee, and we have his application before us. And did Larry make it? No, he didn't.
Do we have an opening on the Opera House Committee?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a resignation
Oh,
last
there we
month,
go.
a month ago.
Okay. I missed, or something.
Yeah, I think we've had one for a while.
There's two openings, actually, I believe.
Oh.
I have a question.
Okay.
Would we be going through this exact same process for an alternate too? Soon.
Alternate Schmaltz.
We should.
We should
Yes.
be. I mean,
Yeah.
and the process would be the same if it was a voting member or an
Yeah,
alternate.
because the idea on the alternate is if voting member is
Always
not
have the
present,
voting member, yeah.
the alternate steps forward
And also, they're ready to step in case
Yeah.
of a resignation.
and step in.
Should the
And did I
board-
just read that we've got up to 3 alternates per every?
For every board. We voted on that, I want to say it was like November.
I've slept since then.
Yeah, well, good.
I thought that it was 2, but I just saw 3. But I'm okay with more alternates, but I thought it was 2.
Oh, on boards that are not quasi judicial
Right,
boards?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But I have to say that alternates in years past, during the contentious years of the suit against Manco's artists, the alternates were very, very important because you had to have continuity, you had to be in the meeting. So if someone missed a meeting, they had to drop out and the alternates were there to, so that was very important.
Okay. So, as we've already noticed, Larry Goldman has been serving on the ZBA, and is stepping off and is wishing to apply here, so.
That was the ORC.
Oh, the ORC, I'm sorry, you're right, he left the ORC.
Some 3-letter thing.
Yeah, it was one of them. So,
Do we have a motion?
not yet, I'm waiting for one.
I move to appoint Larry Goldman to the Opera House Committee with a term expiring in June 30th of 2017.
Second.
And if you look at the Opera House Committee list, there is that one vacancy there.
Okay.
So, any discussion? All in favor? That is a vote as well.
Before we just move on, at one point we've got to put an open spot for the Joint Pathways Committee, we had a resignation there last meeting. I just don't know if it filtered in for time for this
Oh,
packet.
okay, I have not,
be.
I haven't, the resignation itself hasn't hit the desk, as far as I know. You know, that, they need to submit it to Stacy so it can get on her,
I'll talk
May
to
agenda.
I'll talk to Jeff about it.
okay. If you would, please.
Yes, sir.
Our next item is the presentation by Mid-School of Technology, Midco School of Technology, about the plans for Region 8. And we have the members here, okay?
I have been looking forward to this for like a month.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and sir.
Thank you.
Is it working?
It's on,
It's,
yeah. Question is, can the people at home see it?
oh, people at home can see it better than these guys.
Right.
Oh,
They can see it better than we
Wired
can.
right in.
That's why I'll be looking right
I
here.
know, I know. Okay,
Good evening, I'm Beth Fisher. I'm the director of Midco School of Technology, and I have with me some board members and our architect that we've been working with on our project. So, slide. So why are we here? We provide essential career and technical training for high school students and adults. We're part of the public school system. Our building urgently needs replacing. We will have a bond on November's ballot, and we are asking for the support of the community for the sake of our students and for the economic prosperity in the region. The current programming that we have is listed on the left. We offer training for local jobs in auto technician, auto collision, carpentry, culinary, CNA, EMT, diesel engines, design tech, firefighting, machine tool, marine trades, medical science, pre-engineering, small engines, welding, and more. We give students the opportunity to earn industry certifications. We provide safety training and employability skills, and we provide preparation for college or entry-level jobs and opportunities to earn college credits. Why a region? It was determined in the state in the 70s that the affordable way to offer career and technical education in the state of Maine, used to be referred to as vocational education, was to be able to divide the state into regions, because career and technical education is expensive by its nature in all of the equipment that we have to provide to offer the training that we offer. So we serve 19 towns, and Rockport is one of those towns, so we came to inform this body about what we were doing and why we feel it's essential that we do that. Why career and technical education is essential? Many people prepare and want all of the young people to go to four-year colleges, but the reality is, in the state of Maine, only about half of our young people complete that process. And so the legislature and the communities believe that it's essential to provide multiple pathways for students to be able to find different avenues to be successful in their communities. So we're one of the 27 tech schools that provide that training. Why a rejuvenated school? Well, we're going to show you some pictures in a few minutes that we didn't bring all the ugly pictures, but our facility is in really bad shape. It was designed as a boat building facility in the 70s. It's a prefab metal building. Isn't insulated. It was adapted over the years. The life expectancy of the building was anticipated to be 20 or 25 years, and we've been in it a great deal longer than that. Despite our facility, our students are successful. 50% of our students do continue to higher education, which is pretty much the same as all high school students in the state of Maine. One of the things that's happened in the last decade is we have created a lot of dual enrollment programs. So in most of our programs, if the students choose to, they can be dual enrolled in high school and college at the same time. Some of our programs, over a 2-year period of time, students can earn up to 12 college credits at no cost to the families. This year, 80 of our students are concurrently enrolled in college, and we anticipate that approximately 390 college credits will be awarded. In 2014 and 15, 212 college credits were awarded to our students. We also have robust adult education programs. Sometimes people ask us, why do we have adult ed when adult ed is available in our sending schools? Well, the reasons for that are that we have equipment that needs to be utilized in the evening for our adult communities. So we offer welding 4 nights a week. We offer machine tool. We offer a lot of programs that are directly related to the equipment that's already in our building. So each year we serve between 600 and 800 adult education students in our facility. Another change in career and technical education in the last decade is that we are required to align our curriculum to national industry standards. What that means is if we have a welding program, that program has to be aligned with a set of standards designed by that industry. So what would a student need to know after they had been through a training program like this? So our welding is based on the American Welding Society standards. Our culinary is based on the American Culinary Federation. Our CNA program follows the state requirements for CNA, firefighting, and so on. So our programs are aligned with these standards, and last year we issued 284 industry certifications to our students.
Are we holding off on questions until the end?
Why don't we let them get through this part first?
I'm writing them down.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are unique in our part of the state in the marine industry. We're one of the few tech schools in the state that has a marine training program. We've just transitioned that program in the last year so that the first year of the program is what we call marine service. So what would a technician need to know who is working in one of the local boatyards? The second year of the program is composite boat building. So a student can take the marine service and the composite boat building and get well-versed in the basics of the trade. We have an auto mechanic program, and I joke with the students sometimes that I may drive a Japanese car, but I never take it to Japan to get serviced. We need to have those technicians here, and virtually all of the jobs that we train for are jobs that are not going to be shipped overseas. They're local jobs that support the local economy. We have an auto collision program. Some of us will recognize this 60s vintage Bug that had some restoration work done there. We have a carpentry program. We have been building a variety of different projects. Usually every year we build 2 or 3 tiny houses, and we sell those and take the money that is gained from that and put it directly back into the program to buy materials for the following year. We have a culinary arts program. This is the last week of our spring cafe. We run World Cafe between February break and April break. And last week it was so busy people were parking all over our yard. But the young people start in September and they learn all the skills. We have both a culinary program and a baking program. And then at the beginning, after February vacation, they come in and they run a restaurant, and they do all of the jobs from doing the prep work, the line cooks, to serving and washing the pots and pans. So it's all done by the students, and it's very popular with people that come in and have breakfast or lunch Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday during that period of time. This is a picture of a young lady in our design tech program. The instructor of that program we'll see in a few minutes. He was a graduate of Camden Hills Regional High School. But this young lady in the program, she and several of the other students entered the Joe Bornstein Arrive Alive contest. And she designed a comic book that documented the hazards of distracted driving. She won first prize in the contest and got a high-end laptop that was worth about $2,000. But to me, the most fun part of the story is that we won second and third prizes as well.
Did anyone else enter?
Yeah.
Good job.
We have a firefighting program. Our firefighting program is based on the firefighting 1 and 2 standards. Like most of our programs, at the end of the course, the students have to take what we call a third-party assessment. So it's not the teacher that says whether the students have gained those skills. There is a test that's written by industry, and then someone other than the instructor proctors the course. In this instance, the local firemen come in and the students have to demonstrate their skills to the firefighting professionals before they can get the certification. So there's a written test and a skills test. And if they pass both of those, this is one of the many courses that's eligible for college credits. So they can get 6 college credits for this course if they want to continue on to fire science at Eastern Maine Community College or Southern Maine Community College. We also have an EMT program, so if they take EMT as well, then they're eligible for another 5.5 credits. So by taking those 2 programs together, they can earn close to 12 college credits for taking those programs. Here is some young people in our machine tool program. Many people don't know that there are between 800 and 1,000 unfilled machinist jobs in the state because there aren't enough qualified people to fill them. We start with the manual machines. This young man is using a lathe. Behind him, you can see in the middle of the picture a CNC adaptation. So once they understand the machines and the metals and how fast that they can move the cutting tools across the metal, then they can learn to program to automate the process. So they learn the manual the manual machining skills, and then they can learn how to do the CNC skills. This young lady is in the pre-engineering program. The pre-engineering program encompasses a number of different things. We've recently worked with the curriculum leaders in all of our sending schools, and they looked at the curriculum for this program, and they've now all accepted it as a physics. So it's a hands-on physics class. We teach in the program some hydraulics, some pneumatics, stress analysis of materials. And then underneath that umbrella, we have a course in digital electronics. We have another course in civil engineering and architecture. We do robotics under that umbrella, and our kids compete in some statewide competitions in robotics. Here's a picture of our small engines program. You can see how crowded our shops are. In fact, we'll talk in a few minutes about the building, but we've discovered that most of our programs are about half the recommended size as far as how big they're supposed to be able to safely operate these programs. So the first year, back up a minute. The first year in this program is small engines, so that would be anything in lawnmowers, snow blowers, dirt bikes, anything that takes those little gasoline engines. The second year of the program, again, this is a program that we've adapted because of local need. The second year of the program is a diesel program, so we're just gearing up to do that because obviously we have a lot of diesels in boats and some in the trucking that's locally. So here's a picture of some of our staff members. The gentleman on the upper left is Brandon Swords, who as I say, was a graduate of Camden Hills. Last year, he won the Maine Career and Technical Education Educator of the Year. Up in the upper right is Suzanne Hall. She's our curriculum coordinator, and she won a national competition for assessment and administering these third-party assessments. She was acknowledged nationally for the work that she's been doing. In the middle of the picture is Rich Barrett, the machine tool instructor. I think 2010 or 2011, Rich was the Maine Career and Technical Educator of the Year. And then on the lower left is Christy Hastings. She's our math teacher, but she's also our Skills USA advisor. Skills USA is a student organization where our students are able to compete in a variety of contests on the state level, and if they win the gold medal in the state, they're eligible to go to do some fundraising and go to a national competition. This year, I think we're sending 6 students to Louisville, Kentucky, to the national convention. A couple of years back, one of our auto collision students won the gold in the national, which was pretty extraordinary to have a student from a small town in Maine win that competition. So Christy was named the Skills USA Advisor of the Year for the state of Maine last year. And then on the right is Monique Moreau. She is our certified nursing assistant and medical science teacher. And she was a runner-up teacher of the year for CTE, so we're very proud of our staff. And so we had an engineering study by, you can second it, Valley.
The Valley Brensinger
Well, no, but I mean, no, the engineering from.
Oh,
Valley.
Allied
No,
Engineering.
no, Dorsey and
Dorsky and
Bartley.
Garsky Dorsky.
Yep. Sorry, tripped up there
We
a
have a
little
lot of
bit.
engineers working on the job, trying to figure out which one.
Which group? But we had a study done of our building, and it brought out things that we already knew, but put them on paper. That study is actually available on our website if anybody would like to look at it. We also invite people who are curious to come visit the school and take a look around. But the existing facility has outlived its expected life cycle. It was built in the 60s and meant to last 20 to 25 years. The school took it over in 1976 and has been existing in that facility since then. The cost of doing nothing is significant as operational costs continue to rise. The electrical, the IT, and the plumbing systems are all failing. The existing infrastructure do not meet current building codes from the foundation to the roof. We recently had a review by the Maine Department of Education, and they said that we were doing some wonderful things, but they said that the noise levels and the air quality and the lighting were all substandard and, needed drastic improvement. Our classrooms are overcrowded and they're not ADA compliant. So on the left is a picture of one of our beams. This is an I-beam that holds up the main structure. That orange on the bottom is where it was rotted away on the bottom. We had to put some supporting metal and weld it and bolt it through. But that's one of many that are deteriorating at the bottom of the building. If you look at the picture of the right, when I first started there, when we'd get a heavy rainfall, we'd have to shut down the welding program because the water was coming up through the floor. So we have been able to patch the floor, and so it doesn't rain inside of the building at this point, but we have many, many infrastructure issues that are similar to the one shown. This is a picture of the exterior of the building. We have gotten some quotes in the past about what it would cost to insulate and refinish the outside of the building, and we're talking, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we'd still have the awful infrastructure inside if we were able to do that upgrade on the outside. Here's a picture of some of the electrical systems. We've done some upgrades of panels, but we haven't been able to change the behind-the-scenes deep wiring inside of the building. We have put in a number of safety things and upgraded a number of the panels, but there's still a lot of the electrical system that's original. So that's the end of my slide presentation, and we're all here to answer questions because we know you're going to have a few. So that's the rest of the session, is for us to answer as many questions as we can.
I have some, but if other people want to go first.
But you already voiced a desire to ask.
Totally. So I'll start with one, and we'll see where it goes from there. The first question that I had, the dual degree portion,
Dual enrollment.
dual
yeah.
enrollment, thank you. Is that in any way tied with the aspirations program that the high school kids can also utilize? I know that that's not necessarily a technical based.
It's a totally different program. The career and technical schools usually partner with the community colleges. So our machine tool students are enrolled in machine tool at Central Maine or Southern Maine Community College, depending on where they want to go. And most of our agreements are with the community colleges, although not all are. So they're made so that the student can transition from the high school program into one of the community colleges and have a significant step ahead when they make that transition.
Can I follow up on that? Because another question that I had was specific to your engineering and your physics programs. Who do you have things worked out within that aspect? And it's because University of Maine, back in the day was a little more prestigious than maybe they should have been, and they, people would have a technical degree, 2-year, associate's degree in a technical field, and yet their engineering program wouldn't recognize any of it as worth, and they would have to start at a freshman year again. I know there have been some changes in the University of Maine's system overall, and I just didn't know if that has affected you all.
This particular agreement was worked out with the curriculum coordinators and the superintendents from our sending schools, so that was the first step to make sure that they were getting the credit at their sending high schools. We are continuing to work with the colleges, but this particular agreement was one that, to make sure that our students were getting appropriate credit at the high school that they were coming from.
So there's no college credit with the pre-engineering program?
Well, there's a 3 credits available through Southern Maine. And there's also, we teach a curriculum called Project Lead the Way, which is actually accepted at about 100 universities in the country, but that's kind of a separate project that we have going on.
Okay. Jeff? You?
I actually have a arm's length worth of questions. I'll start with, the thing tonight says you're doing improvements to the facility, but yet you...
Actually, the plan is to build a new building.
Okay, so where is that going to be?
The board has made a decision to build on the same property that we're on, after exploring more than 200 pieces of property, to build directly behind our current building, and then continue school in the building, and then when the new building is done, salvage as much equipment as possible, move it to the new building, take down the old building, turn that into parking and green space out front.
Okay. Now I'm going to get into the nasty stuff. Not nasty, but just it's a wonderful program you have. You did a good job of running through it. Rockport seems to, in the opinion of some people, spend a lot of money and not send a whole lot of people there. And are you going to use this as an opportunity to look at the funding, the formula for funding, or is that going to go status quo? Tori's
Okay,
up to the...
I'm Tori Manzi, I'm on the CSD board, and there are a lot of things that this school will change. One of them is right now there's half-day programs. With the new school, we'll be able to look at every other day, and so we will be able to attract, and of course, a much nicer, newer school, if you build it, they will come, with programs that are strengthened because of the facilities abilities, which we don't have right now. The funding formula, we do pay the most. We pay about 34.7% of the total Midcoast bill. And that is spread between our 5 towns, and the rest is spread with the other towns in the program. We just recently, is this the first year that we're under the new funding formula totally? We just switched the funding formula at the schools so that we used to only count and look at 11th and 12th graders. And because some schools figured out that their 9th and 10th graders, just didn't progress at the same way that we didn't look at it all the same. So now we've made it that it's 9 through 12, so everybody who's in each high school is counted. We have, for good or bad, at the CSD we don't have declining enrollments. We actually had, this year, we had to stop taking freshmen because we had no more room.
From the sending schools to the...
From outside, like St. George now tuitions to us, and others were tuitioning in, and we had to say no because we had no more room in the inn for freshmen. So we don't have the same problem that some of the other sending schools have, so our numbers stay high, and when our numbers stay high as a whole, 9 through 12, then our percentage stays high. And we're hoping that through a combination of things, with a new building and with new scheduling, with all the sending schools in all 19 towns, that the numbers would rise anyway, and hopefully with some efforts from the CSD board and administration and whatnot, that then CSD numbers would rise too, which would, won't affect our sending amount, will affect the number of students we do send. That's our hope.
So let me, if I may, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to translate what you said, we pay based on how many students we have, not how many students we send
Correct.
to Region 8.
We send about 80 right now. And at one point, though, I've been on the board for a really long time. And at the beginning of my tenure, about at least 16 years ago or so, we were the #1 sending school to that. But things have changed. Our demands on kids and just scheduling is the biggest problem in all the schools because we don't all have the exact same schedule. And so Midcoast gets the butt of it all because kids aren't always all there at the same time that they need them and whatnot. So part of this is a discussion with all the sending towns so that we can have similar schedules. Hopefully, the every other day schedule will help a lot of kids decide instead of having to skip this class and that they can have it all by having this.
Yeah, I think one of the really important pieces is that, each high school student has a certain number of credits that they need to get, and they need to get it in certain categories. And so, as Beth pointed out, we've now made it so that the superintendents work together to agree that the pre-engineering course would count as the physics credit at the high school. So it allows the students that wouldn't otherwise be able to go if they wanted to take the pre-engineering course to actually have a credit count towards their end goal. Now that is possible, more students next year will have that possibility of, growing. The other piece that Tori mentioned is the every other day schedule will allow the students, because right now there's not a place to eat in cafeteria, so you got to do 2 half days. And Midcoast has a 5-day week, and Camden Rockport has an every other day week. So it makes scheduling hard, and it makes then that even harder to fit in those number of credits that you need to get in those allotted courses. So I think once we have the new school and have the ability to change the programming to allow, a full day schedule or to go every other day, whether it be freshmen and sophomore one day and juniors and seniors the next day and alternate that, then we'll actually be able to send more students and they will have the opportunity to get the credits they need, especially because they're working more and more to make sure that all, the courses. So like my son mentioned, he's like, well, I think the auto collision should count as a fine arts credit because we do a lot of artwork and and there's a lot of pieces that would count. And so, he's looking to like, how can I make that credit count and still be able to go to Midcoast? And the superintendents and Beth are working very hard to make sure that those pieces come into place. And so hopefully all aligned, all those credits will work themselves out and we'll have a new building and make everything work. But right now, those 2 things absolutely have to happen to get to that stage to make our dollars really count.
I want to ask, right, is similar to that. How do you allocate back then the adult education program costs?
The adult education costs are primarily tuition-based. There is a $60,000 that is allocated out, but that's partially because we need to do that to get state subsidy for that program. But most of the programs are self-supporting based on tuition. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier is that besides for the physics credit for the pre-engineering, this curriculum work that we've been doing over the last couple of years, we have now 4 of our other courses that are approved for science credit at all the sending schools. So again, that's going to relieve the schedules for a lot of our students. So if you're taking the EMT program or the medical science program, which is basically an anatomy and physiology course, instead of it just being an elective credit, which it's always been in the past, with these added demands that students have, we want to make sure that they were recognized, not just recognized at one school, but the superintendents felt very strongly that the credits awarded should be consistent across the towns. So our design tech is now recognized as a fine arts in all of our sending schools. We have the 4 courses that are, we have science credit for, and we're continuing that curriculum work to make sure that the rigor and the depth is in the courses so that everybody is comfortable with that, but then to also ensure that the students are getting the appropriate credit on their transcript. And I think over a period of 3 to 5 years, that's going to make a big difference in enrollment as well.
Ken?
Quick question, and that has to do with your plans for outreach to attract more students, because as we've heard already, our towns pay a greater percentage compared to the number of students that go. How can you make the students here aware of the programs and that they might fit those students better than a four-year college prep course or something like that? And how can you get past the idea that a student may sit there and say in 9th grade or 10th grade, gee, this all sounds great, but I don't want to leave my friends behind? How can you work to help that situation so that the students who really could benefit from your program actually sign on the dotted line and come down and take advantage of it?
Well, we have a dynamic student services person, and over the past several years, our enrollments have actually gone up when several of our sending school enrollments have gone down. So we are doing a lot of that outreach. I'm not sure, I mean, we're certainly not done, but he's been actively working with all of our guidance departments, and we have what we call a school to career coordinator who teaches cooperative ed in all of our schools. So they are working with our guidance departments to make sure that the students are aware. Because what I've realized since I've been there, and this is my 8th year, is that really a lot of parents and students don't know what the options are, and they certainly don't know that we have all of these college agreements. They don't understand what credits, because people are kind of locked into what vocational education was 30 years ago, and they don't understand that it's a whole different game. And quite frankly, when they walk by that building, it's not very attractive to anybody wondering what wonderful things happen inside of there. And so we're hoping that this transition can help a whole lot of those pieces.
I'll just add to that, from the school board side, I know that we talk about it a lot at our school board meetings, but I know Maria, the superintendent, and I have been talking, we talk a lot about it, because I'm very, I invested in it. And so one of the things that I hope to see in the next coming years is that our guidance department as a whole is able to work with the student services person more effectively by changing the credits and stuff like that. And that's been a real initiative that I've been trying to push.
So 2 other quick questions. If this all goes through and everybody does what they do and the architects do a great job, with respect to the amount of students you have now, what will your capacity be? How much of what percentage, if you had the same students now as you do in 3 years, are you 60% capacity, 85, where?
Well, that's a complicated question to answer because a number of our programs are constrained by the building itself. So in welding and machine tool, we're limited by the number of welding machines that we can squeeze into that space. There's also a state maximum for most of these programs because, as you could imagine, when you have a carpentry program with a number of 15 and 16, 17-year-olds, having one instructor watch those table saws and band saws gets a little overwhelming. So 16 is the maximum that the state allows in any of our programs. But we looked at all of our capacities and all of our programs, and if we didn't add any more programs, if we just stayed with the teaching staff that we have and the existing programs, a new facility would allow us 25% expansion just because we would have that much more room. We do have had a lot of inquiries to add a couple more programs, so the board will be discussing the programming. One of the things that comes up all the time is why don't we have a business program? So that's one that I'm sure the board will strongly consider. For us to add programs, we have to go through a very exacting process with the state. It's not like adding an elective at a high school. So we have to do surveys of students to see if students are interested in taking the program. We have to work with the Department of Labor to see what the job projections are. Then we have to make an application to the Department of Ed to prove our case that we need that program locally. And then if the board wants the program, then they can move forward.
Okay.
How much does that whole process cost?
It doesn't cost anything. It costs me a lot of time.
Yeah. Takes you away from other things, though. Now, get down to the real nitty-gritty here. How much is this gonna cost?
Let Ron talk to you.
So what we did was a study, sort of both a visioning and a programming study. And in order to align the school's programs with the state standards in terms of size, the building goes from about 57,000 square feet to just under 90,000 square feet. The numbers that we had been using is the state average, what the state carries right now at this type of conceptual design, which is $285 a square foot, knowing that we don't have to acquire any land. So that essentially comes out to $25 million. Having said that, we've met with the student groups. We met with students from all the different schools. And one of the things that they sort of impressed upon us is they believe that a technical school should look, smell, and taste like a technical school. So one of the things we talked about is designing a facility so that the building acts as a teacher, so that when the students are in there, they see the welded joints, the bolted joints, they see how the HVAC works, they see all those parts and pieces sort of working together as a living, breathing building. And so what we're trying to do right now is finish out the programming in terms of getting it as well-designed and as cost-effective as possible, and come back with, later this summer, with a design that has a more defined square footage and a better price tag than the 25 million that we've been talking about.
And then how will that be allocated back to either the school system or to the individual towns?
So 19 different communities will share in that cost.
Same formula that we have for actual, so right now, the 34.7% or whatever it is.
So it'll be based on the current potential of sending students.
Whatever the percentage is at that time, correct.
Every year we do, we take the enrollments for 3 years of the 9 through 12. We take 3 years back enrollment, and then we do a big spreadsheet so that it's not just the current year, but based on the 3 previous years. And that's how we do the percentage of how we divvy up the budget. And to change the funding formula, which people are always curious about, the statutes have a lengthy process, which involves the cooperative agreement, which is the document which regulates our relationship with all of the sending schools. And there's a legal process that has to go through to change, and it requires the votes of all the sending school boards of all the schools that send students to us, and so on and so forth. And also conferring with the superintendents, and it takes months to do a change, but that's how the process goes. It's the school board, the sending school boards, and the superintendent's advisory committee all have to come to a level of agreement on how that's gonna work.
Okay. Tracy? Oh,
Well, no, but Tracy hasn't asked anything.
No, I haven't asked anything because I've worked over there and I've had students over there. So I'm a big advocate. I've seen a lot of very cool things, and I've eaten at the cafe. And actually, I think the Chamber of Commerce is coming over in the morning. I was supposed to come over with them tomorrow. So I don't have a whole lot to ask just because I've been there and I've seen what the building looks like on the inside and the outside. So I understand.
okay. Owen?
I had one quick question about, is there going to be opportunity to use this building construction and have the students be involved and engaged with it? Not necessarily as a cost saver, though you would realize some cost savings, but it just seems like a good opportunity.
We
Yeah.
already have had, we had the pre-engineering students come in while we were actually getting the presentations from the various engineering firms, and they went through that process, so I'm sure over time they're gonna continue to be involved.
Yeah, it's a sort of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and, I would say that we've engaged the middle school kids to get everybody out there to sort of see how this building comes to life from the foundations right up through completion. And part of the architecture too, once the vote passes, once we're getting into the final design and engineering, to be able to work with all of the programs and all of the kids, sort of let them see and witness and engage in how all that goes together, yeah.
Jeff or Ken? Good?
I had another one. It's all right.
Yep.
So you kind of touched on, I had a question about expanding programming, or you're just going to make your programs better with more space. And you touched on that a bit, and you mentioned a business program. Can you just kind of, I'm pretty passionate about renewable energies, and one of the big things that I see is the Camden Hills School specifically has huge solar array, functioning wind turbine, and I believe geothermal right there. So you've got your big three, and I just would hate to see an amazing petri dish of experimentation go to waste, because it seems to fit really well with what you all do.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the vision. So a large part of the vision, actually, all the communities have talked about it, the students have talked about it. Revision Energy is up here. And so one of the things we're talking about is not just the big three, but we're talking about micro hydro, having rain leaders sort of come down, and you can see how the water actually moves through the rain leaders. We've talked about solar hot air walls, facing the south and getting the winds off of there, we can use the solar convection, passive solar heating, active solar heating, everything from solar hot water to the solar photovoltaics that you see on Camden Hills. So as far as we're concerned, we would like to have every little part and piece represented there within the building, so that the building really truly does become a living, breathing organism for the students to see, and for the community to come in and say, hey, if I'm interested in doing something like this at my residence or my place of business, that they can actually see those technologies sort of up and running. As examples.
Your existing programs where you partner with community college systems to get those credits, I know that Northern Maine Community College has their wind power technology degree, but I think they've also expanded a solar degree as well. So I see a really good opportunity there. And a lot of people can speak about how the solar industry is growing, renewable energies are growing, they're well-paying jobs. So just see it fitting really well.
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking time to come and talk to us. And now we're gonna have the Parks Committee come speak. David, welcome.
Thank you. Be here.
That was awesome.
And I'm also glad to have heard that presentation.
Yep.
So first of all, let me review with you the membership of our committee, and I need to edit our annual report slightly when I do that. I'm the chairman. Noni Ames is the vice chairperson. Linda Poisson is the secretary. Sonny Fogel, not Wolf, is a member, and Jim Sadie is another member. Owen is our liaison, and our Rockport Garden Club liaison presently is Gretchen Leone. And let me just say that, it seems like we spend our time creating wish lists, things we'd like to do in the parks. And the only way that we can convert those wish lists into reality is with the considerable help of Mike Young and the Public Works Department. And he has just done a yeoman's job of keeping up with us and even getting ahead of us in some points. It's not an unusual thing for Mike to give me a call and say, I've been looking at this, and what do you think about taking care of that? And we haven't even got there yet. So my deep gratitude to Mike and his department. Some of the things that we accomplished this year are, as overseers, I think is probably our role primarily, taking out the cherry trees and the tall pines next to the Opera House. We were thinking about choosing plants to go in alongside the Opera House, but I see that that's been filled with crushed rock, and I assume that's the way it's going to stay. Looks okay, but we were thinking about having in some low shrubbery there.
Yeah, that's still open. We just.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That's just, it looks nice. I mean, I'm not criticizing it, but, okay, so that's still on the table.
On the season, that was to get us through the winter.
Yep, good.
Yep.
And then, in the Marine Park, there's quite a lot of work that's been done. And again, Public Works and the Garden Club has collaborated to get Andre the Seal exposed after he's been covered with juniper all these years. And the Garden Club has been doing some annual planting there. And I haven't been down to look lately, but the last time I looked, it seemed a big improvement. And then Mike and greatly improved, and this is one of those things that he suggested to us, greatly improved the vista from the Pascal Avenue overlook by cutting down an old apple tree and some unwanted scrub brush and other stuff that wasn't contributing anything to the aesthetics or to the health of the environment. So that was a good move, and if you stop by there and look down, you'll see what's been done. We also partnered with the Rockport Garden Club to get started on working on Goodrich Memorial Park. That's been kind of overlooked all these years, and there's a lot of juniper that's creeping along the ground and covering the stonework, and generally out of control. So in November, we put in a work day, I think a day and a half with, or an afternoon and a half with the garden club, and got quite a lot done, but there's more to do, and I think that's going to be on our list of things to do. That's mostly just getting out there with pruners, and we can do that, and then Mike takes the stuff away, and so that works out well.
I didn't even know there were boulders under there until we started hacking.
Well,
I mean, like,
yeah,
honestly,
that's
we
it.
just started
I mean,
hacking, and I was
yeah.
like, "There's a massive rock here."
I mean, there's some pretty nice stonework in there.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful.
We have no idea that it's there. One of the things that we consider very important, and I think I'm probably one of the ringleaders in this regard, is doing some attractive planting in the Pascal Avenue traffic island, the corner of Commercial Street and Pascal Avenue. Been a bit unsightly in the last few years, and so Mike has gone out and talked with Farley and Son, and got, I think, a really good proposal. We buy the plants, and they'll undertake the maintenance, in particular the watering. And I can tell you from some experience in Camden, that's expensive. The watering can be a very expensive proposition. But they're out with a truck. They've got a tank truck, and I guess that they can add that into their route without adding a lot of cost to their operation. So
They already do the watering of the plantings on the bridge,
On the
don't
bridge,
they?
yep.
they do.
Yeah.
That's right. And there are two different proposals. One is for planting with petunias, blue and white petunias, and the other one is almost the same, planting with proven winter petunias. That's another $180 or so. I don't have a strong feeling about which it should be, but we're meeting on Wednesday, and I'll at least get their preference. But I hope there's some money available to do that.
Are petunias annuals or perennials? Are petunias annuals?
Annuals.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've got to go with, I mean, it's tempting to go with perennials there, but it's going to take such a licking in the winter that you just got to do it with annuals.
Saturated in salt.
Yep, yep. I see Mike back there nodding his head, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that raises a quick question on me, that they're gonna be redesigning the intersection where Route 90 joins Route 1, and there's a little island in there too. Right now, it's paved.
Yeah.
They're just doing lights there.
Oh, they're just doing the lights? They wouldn't consider taking that, okay. Never
Yeah, I
mind.
looked at that and I thought, somewhere back along, somebody said, this is ugly, let's pave it over, and I guess it's gonna be okay
Yeah.
that way. Anything else?
Do you have any plans for the school, the old school site?
We have, yes, thanks for asking, actually. We've done a little bit of clearing along the hedgerow there on Commercial Street. I think, we would like to get maybe a Project Canopy grant for some new trees there. Other than that, we haven't done anything or planned anything because we just don't know what the future of that property is going to be. Right.
I don't know if we've talked to you about this, but out in front of the Opera House here, some advice on getting some plantings out there, because it got pretty chewed up when they did the painting and all of that, and we'd like to get it
Oh.
replanted. And
We'll look at that on Wednesday. I kind of forgot about that.
Right.
Yeah.
That would look, having some really nice plantings in there would
make the,
We'll definitely
finish
look
off
at
the
that.
front.
We're gonna, our meeting on Wednesday is gonna be outdoors and,
Yeah. It would be
We'll
very
tour.
helpful to get get you guys in the garden club to look at that and figure out what should go in there and tell us how much that is, and
I don't know what was in there, probably some junipers or something like that, but
it got pretty overgrown with
Yeah.
some other stuff.
Weren't there daylilies out there? I
maybe.
thought I remember a 4th of July parade that there were like yellow daylilies out there, but.
yeah, that's very well could be.
I don't remember that, yeah.
They're trying to push their way up through all that crushed
Yeah,
rock.
really, now they
Right.
can't get.
Yeah,
Well, this is in the front, there's some two
Yeah.
planters out in the front.
Yeah,
right out here.
yeah.
Yeah, I
know
know,
what
that
you
there've
mean.
been flowers in there in the
Yeah.
past, yeah.
Right.
So, I've got a question, really, it goes to both of you. I was coming up through Mary Lee this morning, and I noticed that a lot of that fabric that's supposedly underneath the pea gravel is coming all up and around.
That's
and
on
a
our
couple
list.
Well, I know the bench up here, and as you used to call it, you may still do it, the penalty box.
Yeah.
Is badly broken, and
It
a
is.
couple of the benches down in the park itself are in need of repair, and I wondered if that was on anybody's agenda.
No, I looked at that bench on the way in tonight, one of the slats is actually
Yeah,
broken.
yeah,
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 The bench is on the agenda again.
okay.
Yeah.
Because at one point, it had
And
been
that-
on
and
the
the-
agenda
and
to get
that-
a slightly smaller bench.
we've been thinking about that path, we've been wanting to do that pathway. And we also have been thinking about creating a pathway up from the parking lot, up to the Opera House. And we've, done a little rooting and that sort of thing, and we haven't come to any kind of conclusion about that, but that's kind of on the agenda too. Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Jeff?
So far, you've talked about wonderful projects that are in and around the Harbor Village. Does the committee look outward into other parts of town, or do other people take care of community assets?
Well, the only other parks that I can think of would be the,
Marge Jones.
Marge Jones, and I think that's under the jurisdiction of the recreational committee. And then the park on Glen Cove, we really haven't thought much about that.
I mean, I know you have a lot of things on your plate, but I mean, one could point out that the bit in the middle of the road by Pascal Avenue is not really a park. Are there other things like that that could be equally as pretty? Given an extra jolt of energy in your
We will,
committee.
yeah, having adopted that traffic island, I think we would look elsewhere for other things like that. Yeah.
Actually, I have a suggestion that we heard earlier tonight about the Veterans Memorial that's being moved down in Glen
Yeah.
Cove. Maybe some tasteful plantings around that.
Sure.
Once that's established.
Yeah,
Right now, it's just got a couple of those big, what do you call them, arborvitae's or something.
yeah, yeah, definitely, we can do that.
One final thing, if you could touch on, just to jog my memory, the planting program that we've been talking about doing in conjunction with Aldemir Erickson Fields. What was the Parks Committee's role in that, or did you all have one?
We don't have one.
Okay.
That's Conservation Commission. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have one.
Any other questions? No?
Dave,
Oh.
I'd like to get together with you sometime and look at Memorial Park along the border where borders Beth's house. And just see if we can clean it, just kind of like prickle bushes and see what you've got for some ideas.
Yes, I know what you mean, yep.
So,
And there are a couple of really sad-looking new trees in there that we ought to do something about. Available. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you, David.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I also want to make an observation tonight. I want to specifically thank Abby and Steve and Mike for not sitting together. Okay. Thank you, David. You okay?
Good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
We,
At some point, I need to take a 5-minute break.
okay. Do we
An hour
have
later.
anybody from Fox on the Run here?
No, she's not coming.
Oh, she's not?
No, I
We do
told you
have
that
the,
at the beginning of the meeting.
The tofu people, I think, are here.
Yeah, that's wastewater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you want to take a 5-minute break?
I would
Would
like
you like
to,
to?
or we can
Why
do
don't we-
one more thing and take a break, or?
Well.
Okay.
Because it would entail going into the wastewater.
I know.
That's where other people are.
Okay.
Why don't we we're gonna take a 5-minute break. We've been at this since 6 o'clock,
Yeah,
so.
really, an actual 5-minute break.
Okay. Come on, let's get going. We've already had 5 minutes. We got people that need to get out of here tonight, particularly us. I got a goal to be out of here by 10.
Tonight?
You better
Tonight?
start
Not
working.
tomorrow morning?
Well, it was gonna
Better
be out
start
of here by
going
9,
faster.
but,
Yeah.
you know, Rick's 5-minute talk was 25.
I have a solution to that. Just take my written one.
No, don't blame it on him. I want to know all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I did
could read it.
I did email Kerry and ask him why we couldn't get into Map Geo. So we'll see if.
Yeah, I had that problem too today.
Okay.
Well, I can't get to it on mine either, so
All right, then
obviously there's a
with
problem.
it. Yep. Okay, we ready, Terry?
See, he moved
All right,
around
we're
now,
back
they're
in
gonna get
session. Our next item here is the request by Fox on the Run to continue their operation in Harbor Park this summer.
One of those hats. How do I get one of those
I
hats?
was under the impression that she was going to be here tonight, but you're going to speak to it, Abby?
I will answer any questions that I can from my end.
My,
You were
my,
never under the impression.
yeah, my backup says that she was not asked to come because it's the third year of her doing this, and
And I know I mentioned to Stacy that because last year we wanted to have had her here, that I'd asked that she be here.
I remember that.
Because you had asked that, you know, we need to be talking about these down there, you know, particularly since it's in the public, you know, private enterprise in a public space. Now, I know everybody's been very happy with it, and, you know, it seems to be, you know, I get worried when I come by at about 10:30 and I don't see the red thing down there in the morning.
No, she got started at noon.
Oh, I thought it was at 11. I thought she opened at 11.
Depending on how much prep I think and how.
It says proposed hours of operation, 11:30 to 3.
Okay, I've been looking too
Okay,
early. I thought it was 11. Okay. In any case, we've got it. We would be the ones that need to approve this. It looks like the chief has signed off on this. Though it says letter from the chief, and I don't see one.
Okay, well, let's just start
just
with,
start.
I'll move to approve the renewal of Fox on the Run's request for a renewal of their vendor's permit.
Second.
It's moved and
So
seconded.
that part's done.
Give to Owen.
Gotta get myself in the minutes somehow.
So, what do we want to do here?
I got a quick one if I could. I heard that there was one complaint over the life of her being there. It was someone on Amesbury, and it wasn't about her. It was just about selling stuff at the harbor and inappropriateness. Other than that, have there been any complaints about her at all? Other than like, man, I had to wait longer than I thought to get a delicious taco.
No, any feedback about the actual product and the actual quality of the product and actually Fox on the Run has been nothing but positive. You know, and everybody, there's a very select few that just don't believe we should have anything down there, period. So that's a very small, excuse my gym clothes. A very small number of folks that, and I'm talking like 1 or 2 over the 3 years. This would be her 3rd year coming. There's just folks that don't believe, because it does make the park a busier place, which in my purview is a good thing. But in some folks that just, you know, like the park to themselves, not such a good thing. So that's the only, like I said, 1 or 2 folks over the course of the 3 years. Everybody else is very pleased and just would like to,
I think it enhances the value of the park for those who attend without really being a negative impact at all.
And it's worked out well having her over there by Andre.
That spot is been a huge benefit for sure. You've been much more.
Do you have any problem with parking, with people driving down and wanting to park over there? And
Other than Rick, we're all set. No,
the truth comes out.
Actually, my one of my deputies gave him a talking to, and he was very compliant. Well, I mean, of course, it's
it parked in a parking space. It was just a trailer.
parking space. So certainly, parking is an issue down there. It's an issue when Fox on the Run isn't there. Sometimes it's an issue. It's just the nature of the way that the park works. But for a couple hours, you know, the 11 to 1, it's tricky. But we try to encourage people who are coming often to park on the other side, because it's actually a shorter walk if they park on the other side to go across the bridge than it is to park on the, by me and walk over. So we try to encourage that. And people that are down there all the time get it. And they, those are the ones who, it's a little bit of managing people putting their boat in, if it's a high tide, if it's a shoulder season, if people are, and, just the lunch traffic. But it hasn't been, when that and the tour buses come all together at once, it becomes a little bit of an issue. But it's been, it's management.
Have the tour buses learned about her being there and tend to try to come during those hours?
They're slow learners.
Tour buses come because of the bathroom.
Yep,
I
they
know.
come use the bathroom and then they leave. It's,
Oh. Okay. Other questions on this? We've got the motion and the second. Let's go to the vote. All in favor? All right. That is done. The next one is we are now going in as wastewater management.
I move to close the select board and reopen as wastewater commissioners.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? That is unanimous. We're wastewater commissioners. We now have the request, and I'm trying to.
Magic.
Okay, that's something else. We have the request from
There it is.
the special user charge. So, why don't you folks come on up here? We've also got our expert advice in the back that could give us a history lesson if we need it.
I think I can introduce Jeff and answer for the memo a little bit, and then you'll have Mike and Steve for better knowledge on the infrastructure questions. So, this is Jeff Wolovitz. Jeff has his approval from the planning board for a site plan conditioned upon authorization to connect to the sewer. So the process we've been through is with the planning board's own budget, which is a relatively new development, had Woodard and Kern analyze samples that Jeff provided through Katahdin Laboratories. And the results were written up by Woodard and Kern, passed on by Dave Bolstridge at the Camden Wastewater Treatment Plant, and memos from Dave and from Steve were attached behind there. And ultimately, we're in the position of estimating what are the flows for a business that's not in existence yet. The operation as it is now in Belfast works one way. If Jeff's design comes through as planned here and he gets the sewer permit, the plumbing permit from Scott Bickford in the coming days, the design may be different. And as I mentioned in the memo, we hope that the reason for this move is that the business will grow. So we need an estimated flow to kick things off. And I'll leave it at that for Jeff and for Mike and Steve. And I just want to say it's been really helpful following Steve around and try and download the stuff that he knows about sewer connections.
Okay. So he's already said that you're gonna do a different operation than you're doing in Belfast. Is that you're doing more operation or doing it a different way or?
No, it's not so much different.
Oh,
Not sure what.
I hope it'll get bigger.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, I mean, we have a slow, steady growth, but no, we use a lot of water, though. There's a fair amount of water we use for soaking soybeans, and then there's also a fair amount of water we use for cooling product after it's heated. So a lot of that is not particularly nutrient dense. We have wastewater from cleanup, and then we also have a whey-like product that we also generate as well, and that's the high BOD. So really, in the whey water, there's the dissolved solids, and in the wash water, we have suspended solids. The plan right now is to send it. Most of that cleanup water with the suspended solids is going to a grease trap that's currently already located in the back of the building, so that will get a lot of those solids out. And the way water, what was interesting from the analysis, both from a lot from David's analysis, he kind of mixed up. We sent samples of just whey to Katahdin for testing, and then kind of his analysis said it's all whey, everything we generate. So, which is the whey makes up about 10% of our waste stream. So, I think he had anticipated in the memo from David it was about 570 gallons per day. We're looking at, I think it's actually going to be closer to 50 gallons per day. So we sort of did the math and adjusted from there backwards. So that was I think Jamie had written in the memo 3 different pieces.
They're backwards, I think.
Yeah, so that was the third one, the 50 gallons per day of wastewater.
I didn't see
Is that the
that.
50 gallons? That's in the first one.
Oh,
You don't have it on paper.
Thanks.
And then
That's
other thing
the
that I
special use charge.
Yeah.
Special user charge.
This
Yeah, it's
portion
in reverse order.
says you're here, if he gets to here.
okay, but your total wastewater flow is gonna be 540?
Those are the 2 numbers.
Yes.
Oh,
Steve is
okay.
shaking his head.
Yes.
Steve is shaking his head back there.
Can we make this simple?
All right,
Yeah.
if you can,
He's buying in at 4 equivalent users a day,
yeah.
1,080 gallons a day. That's the water bill that he'll be paying, and his sewer bill for Rockport will be based on his equivalent user, just like anybody else.
Well, his maintenance, his debt and maintenance charge would be the equivalent user 4 times. He would only be paying for the actual sewer usage. Yeah.
Right? The fact that what is in there has been analyzed,
Mm-hmm.
and right now, it's anybody's guess, it's a shot in the dark, I guess that is the term I'll use. Mr. Bolstridge has figured it one way, Nate has figured it another way. I think our local people, Scott, have figured it a different way. What we really need to do is let him be in business for a while and take some actual samples and then adjust the rate.
Is the, I know that in one of the memos it said that this operation in Belfast didn't have an easy way to get samples of wastewater. Do we have an easy way to do that at the Rockport operation so that we can do, as Steve suggests, and do some testing once you're underway?
Well,
And
there's a
again,
difference
for-
between the BOD and what Steve's saying, and if I understand what Steve's saying is, just look at the volume, period. Well, he will have to be sampled, and we're hoping that as he sets up his infrastructure in the building, that he will put some strainers or screens in the floor drains and in the outfall pipe, whether it be as it falls into the grease trap, which is what most grease trap type. He's being treated as a large restaurant or medium restaurant.
Okay.
The DEP has waved a hand over it and said it's insignificant. Camden has said it's of little significance, but he's gonna have to pay extra. That's all speculation by everybody until it's sampled. So we will ask him to make sampling points at
Okay.
his convenience and for our convenience.
That was my question, is with those sampling.
And I'm still not clear where they're supposed to be, where they should be, what we're actually sampling.
In the plan that was submitted by Nate and Mike Thompson, they have made best operating practice suggestions. Floor drains was mentioned, I don't have it right in front of me, but in the outfall pipe was another suggestion. Those are 2 definite places you need to have a sampling point.
Okay. Okay.
And the mechanism for revisiting the equivalent users charge, if you will, allocation, that comes from us or that comes from Jeff? Question mark.
I just want to say, it sounded like it came from Camden, because Camden's not concerned about the amount of flow, but if the BODs get to a level, they got to treat it differently.
We have to set a buy-in fee. It's been calculated that he's gonna use about 1,080 gallons. The buy-in fee is based on 4 equivalent users. If you had a 1-bedroom house, you had 1 equivalent user, or a 2-bedroom house is 1 equivalent user, each 2 more bedrooms, just to relate it to a home, all right? Everything's compared to a household
that a standard household user rate is 270 gallons a day for all inflow, outflow water. Okay? He's based on 4 equivalent users. 4 two-bedroom homes is what they foresee. That's the estimate of what he's doing. After he's actually in business, that may have to be adjusted. This is new to everybody here. I will give you just a moment of history. When State of Maine Cheese moved their operation from down where it was, where CrossFit is now, up to where it is, we went through the same process, and they use exponentially more water and produce. They take in 4,500 gallons of milk at a pop, which creates 3,000 to 4,000 gallons some days of weight in water. Camden, a different structure was in Camden, different leadership was in Camden, but they reviewed that and priced that value of that BOD, suspended solids, at such a high rate. The State of Maine Cheese took all of their whey process out, put it in a trailer. In fact, there was a guy up there today siphoning it off into a truck. It's that time of year when farmers are gonna spread it on their land. The only thing that goes down the drain at State of Maine Cheese is the wash water, because it's so diluted that you can't detect.
And that's suspended
BOD in
anyway.
the wash water. We're talking a much smaller operation here, and it would be much easier for this gentleman to put it all down there, but there will be a cost. And no one knows exactly what that cost is until he does it.
Okay.
Jeff, I think your question was, do we get to sample whenever we want?
No,
Yes,
no,
we
that-
do under our ordinance.
Okay, no, that wasn't the question so much as does Jeff, as the owner of the business, come to us and say, hey, I think that I'm paying too much because I've been watching my flow, or does the town say, well, it's been 2 years, you know, we're going to revisit the thing, and it's sort of what kicks it into action, because the sense of jeopardy, if you will, of going in with one of your, you know, a cost of manufacturing that 2 years later could change, seems to be something we want to tread carefully with. Now, as Steve says, we might as well poke our eyes out at the first go around because we don't know. But do we, as a board, say we'll revisit this in 2 years, or that's not even up to us
It certainly is up to you.
as wastewater commissioners?
Wastewater commissioners. Ideally, you would give him 6 months of operational time and sample. You might want to sample it every 6 months. If we don't see any change in his production, if we go to him and say, you're making 200 pounds of two-full, or you're making 2,000 pounds, based on what his, we'll set a sampling rate. We have to check on Kentucky Fried Chicken, several restaurants in town now. Denny's is one that's had problems. We actually go, Andy goes and checks those particular grease pits to see what's going on a random basis, because it's a seasonal thing with both of those businesses. I don't know if this is gonna be seasonal, but it is going to be something that's gonna have to be sampled on an ongoing basis.
Do you sample right out of the grease trap, or no, there's a separate just before it?
If I'm remembering what was in that email from Mike Thompson and Nate Malone, they recommended to sample the wash water from the floor drains and an outfall receptacle, either as it comes out of the grease trap or just before it goes into the grease trap inside the building, would be the easiest for you and the easiest for us. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can do it. We can go down and your outfall pipe coming in the manhole, we put 2 soccer balls in there, and while you're operating, we can take a mason jar full out and send it away. And there's all kinds of ways of doing it. It should be pretty easy in your installation plumbing, because that's all gonna be new in there. To put a drain.
Which is going on hopefully this week as soon as we get our permit,
Right.
so we gotta
It should be,
decide real soon.
ideally, you'd put it right as it exits the building.
Mhm.
Just a place to open a drain cock and take a sample.
Okay.
I just want to comment, I think, you know, as far as the number of equivalent users, that's all gonna be based on the flow, which he'll get a water bill regularly, so we'll know what the flow is, and if in 6 months he's looking at his water bill and he's saying, geez, we're using half the gallons that we thought we were, then he's gonna go to Jamie, and Jamie will come back to us and say, we wanna revisit the equivalent user piece.
Yeah.
It's the sampling of the other stuff, that's mostly for Camden's, that's the special user charge.
Camden is the one that controls that. They're
And
gonna
so,
come
you
and
know,
say,
they'll take a look at what, what's coming out of the pipe basically and say, well, it's got way less percentage or way more percentage than we thought, and we'll have to adjust
Our
accordingly.
building will be based on water usage,
Right.
just like it is for everybody else.
And so that would be the adjustment of, the equivalent user fee is basically what used to be called the debt service fee.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, you're supposed to pay for, the system based on how much you use. So if he's using a lot less, we can adjust that based on the gallonage. Question about the buy-in fee.
Yes.
Does that go to the CSD? Is that the way that's set up right now? Because they, I think, if I'm remembering right, they paid basically to extend that sewer line out to the school, so.
It goes for 20 years after whatever date that was of the agreement. I think it might have been in the mid-90s.
1999, the year before the high school was completed.
So in theory, whatever you take in there, it goes on to them. I don't know what your practice has been, but to the extent that Jeff is aware that some other businesses have requested partial waivers on those kinds of things, this would be a little different. You're waivering a little bit of whatever you get that you have to hand over to a third party anyhow. And those are the levers you can pull. So you made the point, Ken, equivalent users, you check from time to time, there may be a reason it gets back to you for that. Right now is where you decide on the buy-in fee. And then to the extent you're concerned about making it easy for sampling, I would say that's a condition of the permit that Jeff needs tomorrow from the local plumbing inspector.
And I would assume that Scott would,
Yeah.
that he would say, you gotta have a place for us to get in here and here in the plumbing, whatever that is.
That's where that went.
Right.
Scott and I have talked about that,
Okay. So we don't need to worry about that.
unless you wanna go help install it.
We're not gonna need to worry about that.
So what we probably have to discuss, assuming that we're gonna move
Yeah.
forward with this, we have to discuss that buy-in fee tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've made a significant investment in this building and the renovations at this point. This is a huge move for us. And
And
if
the
you
counter
take
to
me
that,
by
this-
my ankles and shake me upside down right now, there's not too many coins left that are going to be dropping out.
I mean, and the flip side of that is that the CSD is gonna say, we spent how many millions of dollars putting this sewer pipe out here, and if we hadn't spent that, it wouldn't be there. So you wouldn't even have the option.
Well, it's clear that, if you put in a 6-bedroom house, you'd pay 3 equivalent users. I think, though, we have the flexibility to say, on behalf of the applicant, is to say, we don't know where it's going to come in the eventual usage. Therefore, why don't we pick a number, 2, for instance, and we wait a year, and then a year from now, figures, you have track record in terms of usage, you have this, you have that, and then we ding you for, what it turns out to be if it's more than 2.
For the
And
buy-in.
that cuts in half your cash out of pocket this month, but it also is a mechanism to be accurate on behalf of the CSD, who gets the money, and on behalf of fairness.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole lot easier to get more from Jeff than it is for us to give it back, because we wouldn't
It's
even
not
have
our
it
money,
around
yeah.
to give it back.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, this piece of property has already been paying
Debt service.
debt
Well,
service.
Right.
Now
Because the
O&M.
sewer already runs past it, right?
The buy-in was made, when they
The
first
buy-in wouldn't have been
connected.
made.
No.
No,
Well-
the buy-in wasn't made. You don't buy in until
Right.
you connect. So was
Right.
it connected
now?
previously?
It's already connected.
It's already connected.
Oh, it is.
It's
So
already
if it's already
connected.
connected,
Yeah,
I'm
why
not
would
quite
you have a
understanding why
buy-in?
we're
Yeah.
charging any buy-in fee if it's already
Yeah,
connected.
actually,
New user. I'm sure it's just a new user fee that
No,
got
because
tucked in
that
there.
would then mean that like
Every
when
time you buy and
somebody
sell a
buys
house.
another house, then they gotta pay a new buy-in fee? Steve?
Businesses are treated slightly different, in that when it was built as a restaurant takeout store, it bought in as a 2 equivalent user 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is a completely new use. It's not like a house, one family moving in, another one moving out. This is a business that's vacated and a new business coming in, totally different.
And a whole new buy-in fee, even though they're already connected.
That's what the ordinance says.
Oh,
That seems a little weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the ordinance a little more carefully on that
You're
one.
buying in on the infrastructure, you're buying in on the pipe in the
And there was
ground,
an
but not in
initial
the
connection
service.
buy-in fee, I thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll need to look that
Time
up.
to revisit the
So,
ordinance.
I think in light of that, I think that we should probably lower it to something like $1,000 and revisit this, because it seems wrong to charge somebody a connection fee if he's already connected. I understand that it's a different number of equivalent users, and that's definitely something we need to visit and be aware of, but, like he said, and we've talked about, that's why he looked at that piece of property, because it was already connected. So
But just to make
it's
it
the same
absolutely,
building.
Yeah,
let me just be absolutely clear. Any other business in town that's done in has paid a new buy-in charge when hands change?
The user fee has changed.
Do they pay the delta? Do they pay the difference, or do they pay a whole new from ground up on the?
They would pay on what it is they're gonna do. Let's use Hoboken Gardens, for
Yeah.
example. Okay, they have a certain amount of water that they use there, and then they have unmetered water because they sprinkle it. Let's say someone bought Hoboken Gardens and used it for the same thing, but they expanded the greenhouses and went from 4 equivalent users to 12 equivalent users. They would have to pay for 12 equivalent users. That's.
Even though
They wouldn't pay
4
for
had
8.
already been paid for.
That's, even though, that's right, it's a different deal, guys.
So have we done this in the past?
I was trying to think of
Because-
I was trying to think of a place that I could name, but I haven't come up with one yet.
Well,
Yeah, did
there's-
Scott have places that, I mean, and I guess the question that goes with that is if we've done this in the past, as a town, did it come to the select board, or did the select board not?
Because, you know, we've got what's flatbread now had
Say,
been.
what about flatbread? Is that a
you know,
good
had been
example?
another one, had been one before and one before.
If they changed their equivalent users, is the
Right.
question you'd have to ask Scott, and I don't think they did. I can't think of anything that's changed dramatically from 2 to 4.
Oh, so, now the way you just explained it, it sounds like if you change your number of equivalent users.
Yeah.
So if they stayed at 2 equivalent users, he wouldn't have to pay anything.
Now, without the ordinance in front of me, you're starting to ask questions that I can't, I'm not
Oh, okay.
prepared to discuss the ordinance. You're putting a business in here that's utilizing your sewer, and he's benefiting from that.
But isn't he
To
paying?
pay his fair share for that.
Isn't he doing that with the,
Like to have businesses.
isn't he doing that with increasing the equivalent users?
Yeah, and that's what we're asking him for 4 equivalent users.
It sounded like there was an additional fee on top of that.
That's the buy-in.
Buy-in fee is what the question is about. It's not the number of equivalent
Right, the
users.
equivalent
If
users
a
isn't in
buy-in fee has
question.
already been paid for that property, and I'm looking at the ordinance myself and trying to find it here, and I'm not having.
Buy-in fee used to be, when we started, the buy-in fee used to be $50. And you guys have increased that.
Right.
At least 3 times in my tenure.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just recently with the rewrite did.
The buy-in fee would be for a new hookup, I believe.
Right.
Right, and
That makes
that's the question, is this is not a new hookup.
And if it's a change in equivalent users, if we're going from 2 to 4, then perhaps that makes a good argument for charging for 2,
The incremental.
the incremental, which I think
Trying to
that's,
save some money here, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're working hard here.
Conversation is, yeah, it's a good one.
Wiggle room with the buy-in.
That's what we're
That's,
talking
that's
about.
what we're
It's just
talking
the
about, not
buy-in
the
that we're
equivalent
talking
users.
about.
Equivalent users is.
No,
that's
and going forward,
calculated.
yeah, the equivalent user is the equivalent user, but for the buy-in, it just seems like someone already bought in. I would presume they made more money in being able to sell that piece of property because it was already connected. So they've made their money, they've spent their money, and we're already there. So yeah, I have trouble saying we should even,
Okay.
well, I won't consider $4,000. That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, I would think that at least to start, we just say 1,000 and.
And that
I-
we should
you know,
revisit
and
it
revisit
in a year.
it in a year.
And if he
yeah.
does have a 4 equivalent user, then he owes us another $1,000, and we'll have to, we'll get him in a year.
I think you would wanna revisit this in 6 months.
6 months,
Okay,
okay.
in 6 months then. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Especially because he's saying it's not necessarily going to be seasonal.
Benefit either side.
We can see in the 6 months we'll have a decent snapshot. It's not like you ramp up, ramp down, ramp up, ramp
There may
down.
be 20% busier in the summer, but it's not 200% busier.
Okay.
So, you wanna try to take?
I don't know. How are we gonna?
And
so-
include, like, down,
This-
right down
This
here,
is a
just say
very
a
bad
1,000.
motion. I'm gonna say that to whoever wrote this motion.
Oh, are we done asking questions?
Oh, no.
Oh, are you? Oh, you have another one? I'm sorry.
Could I?
Well, okay, what?
So how many people are you going to employ?
Full time?
Full time.
Like,
Or-
I
or
mean, full time
part-time?
equivalent. I mean, we have one full time. There's me, I'm full time or double time or whatever you want to call it. One full time. We'd like to get to where there's 2 full time and a part time employee, but right now it's basically a full time and a couple part time employees.
And your selling market, where does your product go to?
Goes all over the state, down into Massachusetts, New Hampshire.
Revisit in 6 months.
So generally somewhat locally,
Regional.
regionally,
It's all
New
regional.
England.
Keep
It's
the
all
4
regional.
equivalent users
And
use the 1,000.
moving to this facility gives you the ability to expand.
Gives us the long-term stability that we need to
We
grow,
do,
because
of
I know in 5 years and 10 years, we're still there. So many investments we make, we're not gonna get interruptions because my landlord says, no,
Right.
you guys gotta leave, anything like that, so. And it gives us the visibility, which is always super.
Yeah, I've been watching that spot feeling like it was underutilized for a while, so
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you all came to town.
We're also gonna put in a commercial tenant space there as well. Right now, we're just gonna take up 2/3 of the building, and we're gonna try to get somebody else to put a basically West Street Market, but without the alcohol and lottery tickets and cigarettes. Well, they can have some alcohol, but without the lottery tickets and cigarettes, and hopefully some craft beer, yeah, breakfast, lunch, bakery. Well, they're gonna have the kitchen side and what was that quarry tile side. Glass door walk-in coolers will move over there, but they'll have a small kitchen for doing grab and go foods, and we'll see who comes in.
Okay.
I had one,
But no drive-through.
one final question. Is it feasible for you to separate your high concentrate BOD whey out in a similar fashion, but smaller scale like State of Maine Cheese does?
There would be a cost and time to figure it out and engineer it and purchase what we would need to do it.
But if that model did make sense,
But there's a possibility for it.
He would need to ramp up his volume a lot.
not necessarily. I mean, the one behind State of Maine Cheese
I gotta
Company.
be honest.
Let's
he's
get
got
back
a
to our-
plumber in there
yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
get
think
back
it's
to this.
appropriate for us to ask him to replumb it in a new way
No,
tonight.
I'm just-
Okay.
Owen was asking for his intellectual curiosity.
Yeah, well-
It was also to possibly mitigate a lot of the conversation about what's going into our waste stream, but also I'm
Well, it's
fascinated with.
gonna go in now, for now.
Yeah. I'm just in the future,
That can be a future.
Ulterior motive, he's not gonna tell you what it is.
Yeah.
but it's tasty
Okay.
for breakfast.
He wants tofu.
Okay.
So,
Tracy, would you like to make a motion?
We'll talk
I would,
at some
but
point.
you don't want me to make that particular motion.
No, you don't need to
I
make
move
that.
to approve the special use charge for Hiwa Tofu, 201 West Street, map 28, lot 7-1, to the following. What?
27.
Map
Map
27.
27, lot 7-1 to the following. Equivalent users, 4 times $48 per quarter. Do I have to say all of that? For O&M and debt retirement. Debt buy-in fee of $1,000 with a 6-month revisit that will be a one-time pass-through to CSD. And special user charge of 50 GPD using the WWTP formula equals $40 a quarter for pass-through to Camden.
Second.
Was I close? Did I get
Yeah.
most of the stuff we needed to?
Sounds like you did exactly what we were talking about.
Right here in a way.
We have a motion
Do
and
we
a
need
second.
to say anything else about the revisiting? Are we good?
It's in there.
Okay.
And that'll be on Jamie, I think, to.
Yeah,
to
really.
Yeah.
Sort of chase that down so that we make sure it doesn't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, you're gonna follow up on that. Okay.
There's a lot to be learned by just letting it get underway.
Okay. Any other discussion on this, on the motion?
does that cover well, I'm sorry, include permission to connect? Is that what this motion would also include?
That will be granted by the
plumbing
inspector. We don't grant that.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
He's looking for this vote. When he sees this tomorrow morning, he should.
He does the permit. There's not a sewer permit that's separate from the plumbing permit? It's the plumbing permit is the sewer.
This is
Okay,
sewer permit.
okay,
Tomorrow's the plumbing permit.
okay, good.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? It passes.
Thank you.
Wish you good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing the product. Okay.
I don't even like tofu.
I love tofu.
I will.
He makes the best
It's
tofu, yes.
Okay,
It'll change my
we
mind.
still need to do our
I know, where
wastewater
is it?
commissioner.
I don't have a, oh, here's the number.
Okay.
Somebody go for it.
That
I
help
move
at
to
all?
commit the February 2016 wastewater user debt fees totaling $33,178.64 to the treasurer for collection.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Owen, your whole conversation is going out over the live stream.
This is a good conversation.
Okay, we're voting. Aren't we
Okay,
voting?
the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? It is.
Are we done?
approved. We are done as wastewater commissioners.
Move to end our meeting as wastewater commissioners and go back into session as select board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? It's unanimous. We're back in. Let's go to the approval
Page one.
of the planning and development fee schedule.
Is that where we
This is
are?
page 4.
Yeah, there we
All
are.
the blue stuff. Jamie, you're on again.
The rest for the wicked.
Weary.
Yeah, wicked.
And this was ready for me, ready for.
Good night, Jeff. Have a good one.
And we have the proposed development fee schedule, planning and development, whatever. So Jamie, what is this?
Give us the summary.
Yep.
It's just a cleanup and reorganization of the fees. The only things that were sort of missing before and filled in are very few, like the private way plan, which appears sometimes at the planning board and sometimes at the code officer's desk. So we, and I put in red little notes that go with the reasons for things. And there are a few items that are being moved into a flat fee that weren't there before. And this is primarily a simplification for internal purposes, but we did some fleshing out of what we thought would be the effect, and we thought most applicants would save money on that. And then importantly, in the plumbing side, there's a service fee that's been tacked on to everything for the last several years. It's been a source of frustration for the local plumbing inspector, and as hard as I could try, I couldn't see how it got justified other than some point in time planning and development seeking to become a revenue generating department. You know, I think it was philosophical at a certain time, but not practical. So I propose to eliminate that, but to institute on both sides of the ledger, code enforcement and plumbing, a fee for return trips. So the ones who are getting that extra fee are the ones who need, who said to Scott, I'm ready, come over, and they're not ready, and Scott's got to go back. And so the only thing I'll add to that is the relevance to the possible adoption of the Maine Uniform Building Code is only in that aspect. There's nothing in here for an inspection fee. Never had one. We don't propose one. But to the extent that Maine Uniform Building Code requires up to 7 inspections, where we now have 1 or 2 for a regular home project, it's much more possible that somebody will say to Scott, I'm ready, and it turns out they're not. So that's how it's relevant to MUBEC, and that's also why I believe we can do this without knowing where MUBEC comes out in June.
Okay. Any questions, any further questions?
I do.
Owen?
For the very first thing, building fees by square foot, that first line, that's related to your first paragraph in your memo. We propose an increase in the minimum fee for building permits from $20 to $30, as well as a small increase in a few project types. I was okay looking at your memo increasing a building permit from $20 to $30, but then when I look over here with building fees, it's by square foot. So what you're telling me is every square foot that they're proposing building has increased from $20 to $30?
No.
That's, I'm trying to get clarity on this
Sure.
because that is a big difference for me.
That's for the occasional small job that doesn't get as high as $20. We would have charged $20 as a minimum. So we're raising that floor from 20 to
The
30.
square foot charge, Owen, is like finished, it's 40 cents a square foot. That doesn't change.
Oh, so what's
So
below
all- yeah, All
here?
this stuff by
Yeah.
square foot, so when you add it all up, if it doesn't come up to $30, then he's gotta pay
Now
the
it's $30.
$30.
Okay, now I'm okay. Now I'm comfortable because I looked at that and I was like, wow, you just did a huge fee increase. Okay.
Yeah.
Comfortable. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I have a question or a comment, I guess, on the ZBA fees. This came up a couple of years ago in a situation, that $400 administrative appeal for a ZBA is leaps and bounds higher than any other town around us, I believe. You may want to do some research on that. And there was some question a couple of years ago, is that a barrier for somebody to do an appeal? Are we trying to discourage people from making an appeal and assessing their rights before the ZBA by having such a high fee? Because I think, for example, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but the last time I looked, I think Camden's was like $50 or something like that. So our fee is way higher than surrounding towns, so. I'd like to see that looked into, because we don't want to be in the position of having somebody, get an adverse decision and then not be able to go to the ZBA because they can't afford the fee.
Well, they've already been to the ZB. I mean, they've already done the planning board.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is, yeah, I think in a sense, it is a effort to make a slightly higher threshold to contest a ruling. I came out of that meeting, I don't like the ruling, I'm gonna get mad and I'm gonna, I think I have reasons. Presumably, I've already told them those reasons, so they haven't heard it. So they heard it already. So my experience, and Tracy, tell me if this is true or not, but certainly in the ZBA, when we had entities going up against something that had gone through the entire process and been decided, those people came back with attorneys. So they're already in it for a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of situations where that's happened, and in the last 12 years, just the last 12 years, I know previous to that, there were ones that
Oh, yeah,
further.
90s.
But in the last 12 years, I don't know if I can think of one that was something that was turned down by the planning board that went to the ZBA, unless you can think of one.
The ZBA's had a very different experience in the last 12 years.
Well, that's what I mean. So it's been a long time since that has been a
I think
factor.
Ken's point is better illustrated by a planning board approval, where there's a neighbor who's not happy or something like that. And that's who winds up doing
And
the
that's a
appeal.
possibility.
That's, I think, what that request we had about a year ago, that somebody came in and asked us to waive the fee for appeal to the ZBA.
Right, and it was, I mean, and
they weren't the owner, they were like a neighbor or something.
Yeah, it was a lighting dispute or something like
Yeah.
that, I think. But at the time, I remember seeing that our fee was quite a bit higher than the surrounding towns. And, I mean, you're never gonna, these fees aren't necessarily meant to cover the costs, that's for sure, because none of them ever will. But I think, on the other hand, we just want to make sure that it's not a barrier to somebody who may have a legitimate reason to be heard by a board or something, because
Well, my short answer is I did not research that. So that's a good reason to come back in a month if there's a concern. But for a longer answer, I agree with Jeff that somewhere in between covering the costs and something that is symbolic or reflective of the huge input of human resources that flows from an appeal seems appropriate.
maybe I'll just give my 2 cents. Jeff, I agree with you that when government, in a sense, raises a price on something, they're trying to get people to shift how they operate. And I think that that's appropriate in certain places when you're talking about the health of the planet, so you increase the amount for your gasoline. I guess this is one of those places I wouldn't necessarily would think that overall, that process, premise, end goal doesn't necessarily fit here.
I get that so long as you're fully aware that this fee kicks in when somebody doesn't like the fact that whatever is in question has already gone through the entire process. Okay.
Which means we're gonna be hiring attorneys. We're gonna want our attorney there. This is not like a low barrier, like someone's coming in for a change of use or something, and the ZBA, or not a change of use, but a special exception, where the ZBA comes and says, oh yeah, you can do that, it's listed right here. That's a pretty kind of, well, no one else has heard it yet, so they just come in and say, I want it to be a daycare, and it used to be a insurance office. And the ordinances allow for that, but you have to go through the ZBA to get that. What this is for is, and like I said, other than going as far back as the situation with Maine Coast Artists, I can't come up with any, and that just may be because I'm not
Well, I
very
think
with it. And I do think that it is a somewhat useful thing to have that barrier be reasonably high. Because I mean, you're on the way to a very bad place by the time you go and want an administrative appeal.
And what you were talking about here, it was a lighting dispute. The person that wanted to file the appeal with the ZBA was they were claiming that the lights were blasting into their windows, even though Scott and Tom Ford at the time had gone out and researched it and said,
Right.
there may be a little bit of a bleed through during the winter, but.
And I'm not necessarily arguing that particular case. I think we need to look at what surrounding towns are doing, and if we're way out of line from surrounding towns, I think we need to re-examine it.
Yeah, I have one other thing for Owen to consider. When this occurs, that somebody comes in and says, I've been aggrieved, you didn't hear me clearly enough, or I disagree with your thing. What you're focusing on is the penalty, if you want to call it that, to the person who has been aggrieved. They are automatically aggrieving the other party in that they're making the other party jump through new hoops. They said, whew, I got my permit, almost, So there is that, that aspect that whatever we're doing by this fee to make it harder for someone to do it, if you want to look at it that way, and social engineering and carbon tax and all that falls into that. They are, by the very fact that they're contesting it, they're aggrieving the other party.
And I suppose that the majority of what, and Tracy had said something about, just making sure that the fee's appropriate to have a good barrier there and a hurdle to climb, and I'm not opposed to that. What I'm thinking about is what Ken said about, are we in line with numbers of surrounding
I'm going to
communities?
call a
So
halt
Jamie
to
will
this
come
because
back
we've
with it first.
wandered way off the topic here. I think it's clear that, yes, let's do a little research, see where the other towns site, but then it has to come back to us for our discussion and process. And
I move to approve the changes to the Planning and Community Development fee schedule effective April 12th, 2016.
Second.
moved and seconded. Do we have further discussion on this?
I appreciate you taking out that $25 fee that's been around for about 10 years now.
Took a
And
little nerve,
I've
that's
had
all.
a number of people mention it to me, so thank you for finally taking care of that.
Which was the 24, oh, for the return, for each trip?
No, not that. The plumbing, no, the extraneous money that was,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I have
No,
idea
not
what
the
you're
return
talking-
trip thing.
Oh.
That's different.
Okay. With no further discussion, all in favor of approving All right,
Okay,
that is
that's
done. We now have the documents and service fee policy, which we have before us. Removing some charges. That's all you're doing is removing charges, right?
Well,
Yeah.
as the last man standing, I can speak to this issue too. But this affects everybody in the town office, or I think in any department, where a property owner or an applicant or somebody who just wants to know comes in and says, can you tell me a little bit more about how this works? And at a certain point, that person is avoiding the trouble of hiring their own help to do a real intensive research project, and it makes sense for the town staff to start charging. And the one question that I looked at to be sure of, working with Stacy on this, is to make sure there's no overlap with what's in my department's fees. So these are different, but they apply to everybody. And the one thing we can do from time to time is check on the statutory limit to that hourly rate.
And he's talking about the very last item in that
Right.
column.
Research and employee time.
Right.
There might be a lot of other things
Oh,
on that I'm not.
that was
aware
weird.
of.
There are
That's set
several-
out in FOAA, I
Yeah.
think.
Right, there's several other things that we've just eliminated because we don't have the capacity to do a
we
24 by
fax it.
36 map or a zoning map.
Okay.
We are, we can do digital tax maps on a CD, but we're not printing them. The mailing list, we just do mailing lists digitally now. So several of those are just, housekeeping things about the way we do things now.
And we don't have a big map, we can't make big maps anymore.
No, we don't have a
Yeah.
plotter, right?
I know, it's
Okay.
sad, but true.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept?
I move to approve the changes to the document and service fee policy effective April 12th, 2016.
Second.
I would note that the top of the front page says April 11th, and the back page still says February 14th.
Right.
Okay, so those need to be updated to
the
April
right date.
12th.
Okay,
The motion had a date in it, so we should be all
yeah,
set.
that's April 12th. Okay, all in favor? That's done. Let's move right along. Unmarked graves. I know she's not. She's in New York. I told her if she wasn't here, she might not get it passed. but-
Jeez. Do we have
What
any
we-
documentation?
No,
My
this is
recommendation is
just. yeah.
to just send it, to forward it to the cemetery committee to get a recommendation from them as to how to address this.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. They're familiar
That's why
with
they're here.
the lay of the land, so to
yeah.
speak, so.
You know, because if there's if the bodies are gonna be exhumed and moved, there's gonna be cost involved. Who has to bear that cost, things like that.
I've spoken to the assistant sexton in regard to removing those bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they're children, they've been there several years, there's nothing to move.
As in, it'll be dull
Yeah.
dirt.
Well, from that, yeah, this was back in the 1800s, wooden coffins.
They're pine boxes,
Yeah.
or whatever, there's nothing there.
Well, should we, I mean, I don't know what the laws are, but do we have to dig up and at least bring a mound of dirt?
I
from
would
one
let the
place to another?
cemetery
Let's let
committee
the cemetery do.
look at and come back with a recommendation.
Okay.
You know, state law is clear that if there isn't an effort to move, then that's where those headstones are supposed to be. You know, because that's where the burial took place. You know, this is what Helen keeps telling me. You know, if the decision is to move, and it may just be a nominal effort, because, as the assistant sexton said, there's nothing there.
Do we need to have a motion?
So you can recommend it to the cemetery committee, and then we bring it back to you to make a decision.
I move to refer this matter to the cemetery committee and ask for a report back, next meeting, or is that too soon?
That's too soon.
That's too soon.
Give them 2 months at least.
So,
Let's make it the 1st of July.
Okay.
Second.
With a report back by the.
Our first
by
our
by
meeting.
our July meeting.
Yeah, that would be good. Is there a second?
You got one down there
Oh,
already.
okay. Any discussion? All in favor? That is done. Discuss the appointing non-residents to committees who have come to us as part of a good citizen effort. And somewhere, I can't find.
Jamie.
Oh, here it is, yep. Ken, at my request, wrote up what he thought would be an appropriate guideline.
This is based on some of the discussions we've had when it's come up from time to time. I throw myself on the mercy of the board.
Yes, I have my barbed spear.
Okay, well, why don't you kick it off then?
Number 2, Rockport residents shall be given priority for appointment to all advisory committees. Does that mean, and I don't think it does and I don't want it to, that somebody who has successfully joined and has a term gets kicked off because a Rockport person wants to do that? I just want to make that clear.
But it would mean, in my opinion, and the board can talk about this, it would mean that if we had 2 applicants for a position on a committee and one was a Rockport resident and one wasn't, the Rockport resident would be given priority.
Automatically, regardless of anything else.
That's the way it's written, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I
way you can.
appear to be in the minority on this one.
I'm with you. I get where you're going.
I just like talent and
If it's
good
the
brains.
Conservation Commission and you have a person who's worked their entire life conserving the environment and someone who's a diesel mechanic but the diesel mechanic is Rockport and yeah.
Until they get the term and then they're in for their term.
Let's keep in mind that there are the
The other thing is.
extra positions that are available.
Yeah, and the other thing too is this statement says shall be given priority. It doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, I guess if you had 2 applicants for a committee and both were equally qualified and one lived in Rockport, then the person in Rockport gets it. But if you had a situation where you had an applicant that was, not at all qualified for a committee that lived in town, but one who was very qualified that didn't live in town, then
That's just
I
what
suppose you
Owen
could,
said.
you know,
That's just what, I mean, you'd have to have a pretty strong board. I mean, I take that position, but I'm alone on this board in taking that position. And it sounds like everybody else is looking at priority and say trumps. It trumps that other person.
Well, then
Totally.
it really probably should be worded, all other aspects being equal, priority will be given.
That really weakens it, but.
well, the problem is with that then if you have somebody who worked for 10 years in conservation and somebody else who worked for 15 years, and then one's, you get into you see what I'm saying?
We only had that problem where we had
Yeah, right,
two-
exactly.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And remember, we have the alternate positions that we can appoint to as well.
I have a quick scenario to throw out. We have a committee. It has over 50% Rockport residents, but then 2 people resign. Still have over 50% Rockport residents. We get 2 applicants to fill 2 roles. One's a Rockport, one's not. But say there was only 1 empty slot.
But you just had 2 resigning.
Okay, so my scenario.
Bad
my
math
scenario-
happening here.
I'm gonna play poker with him.
No, but do you get what I'm saying? Do you get? We've crossed the 50% threshold. We've got 1 spot to fill, and we're looking at a Rockport resident with less experience.
That's what we were just discussing.
I understand that. What I'm
Trying to
referencing
get
is
2 of them.
well, I'm referencing the first one.
Yeah.
Composed
First one
of a
for me is more
majority.
inviolate than the second one, from my point of view. I want to have our committees have a majority of residents on
And
them.
I suppose if the committee had a majority of Rockport residents and there was 1 slot and I saw 2 and 1 had more experience but was out of Rockport, now I'm questioning the thing I said to you before about.
Yeah, let's keep in mind, these are guidelines for our use, and we can change our guidelines anytime we want to.
He used the word inviolate. That doesn't sound like a
Well, for
another
number 1.
guideline. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
no,
I don't
no.
see inviolate written here.
No, but
no.
I said from my point of view, the number
We
1
have,
was-
we have a member of the,
I remember way back when I was on a historical committee,
Of one.
years and years ago.
one, yes.
I had a person, particularly my uncle, who said he would help me. And I was told he wasn't a Rockport resident. So this is a little bit of a,
This is a brand new thing.
yeah, but it's just a little,
Well, it's brand new that we're considering, but it's not brand new in that it comes up. It has come up before, and it's been, immediately squashed. I mean, that's where you came. You said, "Oh my God, he can't serve because he's not a citizen of
I
Rockport."
mean, we have changed, because we have appointed non-residents to committees over the last several months.
The last several months,
Yeah.
but I think what Heaven's saying is
I mean,
important.
We've
to-
evolved.
to understand.
We just did 2 to recreation.
Yeah. So I would like to see a lot of support. I mean, as Rick says, we should have this problem. You know, anybody who is talented and smart and wants to be on a committee to help this town, and they obviously have some sort of connection to Rockport. And I would like to see us welcome them with open arms. All, it's up to the point of inviolate majority. And I think that's important. I think it's important for us to do. So I think this is workable. I don't think it undermines my desire to see that. I wanted to check on number 2 and put in something that says they'll, you know, once on, they'll be allowed to, nothing will take away from their full term, basically.
That's number 4.
Yeah.
Thank you. For some reason, I read that and must have been somewhere else when I read it.
Okay. Do we think we need to have a motion to put this in with, you know, file it with all the rest of our documentation about committee membership?
I think we should vote on it.
Okay.
And, yeah, because otherwise, there is that unwritten, that what do I do?
Okay.
So absolutely, I think we should.
Then I would entertain a motion.
I move we accept the select board guidelines as crafted by my colleague to the left.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Owen?
I was going back in my brain. I remember Jan, and it doesn't matter about what we're doing, but I remember when we had this conversation a couple months back, Jan saying, oh, you guys are going to address it next month because I'd love to provide some input, and then we pushed it off like another month. So Jan Rosenbaum.
Oh.
And not that like you're saying, these are guidelines, this isn't ordinance change or anything like that, but I do remember there being some expression from the public that public input be given on this. Just wanted to throw that out there.
It was on our
the
agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Yep.
It's been moved and it's been seconded. And I'd point out that if you want to tweak the wording, you know, you can come back with a recommendation next month.
You got a pewter, don't you?
She ain't in there. There's a PDF. By golly, I got to read the PDF.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
Where'd the vigor go, Tracy?
Eked out
Because
It's
I don't really
after
like
10.
it. I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Okay, well. The next item is approving Rick's attendance at the MTCMA and ICMA conferences this year.
Improving his attendance. or
Motion to
uprooting?
approve the town manager's attendance at the Maine Town, City, and Counties Managers Association and the International City Managers Association meeting and ongoing education sessions.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And the dates are provided there, August 10th and 12th up in Sunday River. Great
Great
access to everything, right? You know, like cell towers and things.
Yeah.
And then out in Kansas City on the 24th. Hey, it's like half a country closer than the year before.
Yeah.
Any discussion? None? All in favor?
Fun.
Okay. The next is the request to change the name of the Ad Hoc Technology Committee. John Veman has asked for this. Apparently this more reflects what they are doing. Yes? Tracy's got the floor.
I have a problem with task force. For me, task force is doing one specific thing and garnering all your resources to get that done. So if they are going to attend to technology the way we originally asked them to, it's not a task force.
Okay. Ken?
I guess I just would like to know why. I don't see any explanation
Sounds
here.
cooler, Ken. It
Well,
sounds
also
cool.
keep in mind that he seems to have implied that they want to drop the ad hoc component, in which case then we need to start looking at term limits.
Yeah, and I think they need to come to us and show us why there's a need for this.
We need more information, I think.
Okay.
Because I get the feeling that their mission is significantly different than what we originally tasked them with.
Well, you're
So-
absolutely right.
Right, but I think that someone needs to come before us and explain to us what that is that they are planning on doing and get our buy-in that that's where we expect them to go.
Okay, well, laying the foundation for that is that their charge has been changed from, ooh, fix this and consider that and help us with that, to help, and we talked about this at 2 meetings, is help the town understand what's involved with the fiber project. So they are 98.5% focused on that, and in that sense, they absolutely are reflected in your version of a task force.
But they still retain all their earlier
Well, that's
charge.
what I was gonna say, is I don't think the charge changed. I think we gave them a short-term task to concentrate on this.
Which would be a task force.
But when they're done with that task, they're still gonna have the charge.
Oh, they understand that, yeah, but it is, there are several expressions I could use, but it is intense because of the time frame and because of the nature, and we have some very interesting, very talented people who have been through this before, so that they will, without an aim towards, voting in or out, they will accurately and actively increase the awareness of the issue.
Well,
Did I dance around that fast enough?
I think Tracy's suggestion is appropriate, that they come in and explain the reason.
Yeah, I don't have any, this is a surprise to me that John wants to do this, so I can't speak to that in
Do they have a scheduled time like Parks does to come in and give a I know that they've been
around
together
that
for
long.
such a small amount of time, but it being a new thing with them being robust on one task, forcefully, should they come
I think
in?
it would be a good idea, now that they've sort of gelled and gotten together, to hear from them anyway. I mean, I thought that
Yeah.
was sort of the whole idea when we put them together, was that we wanted to hear their input on,
Yeah.
what they thought.
And
the
actually, I thought
technology
we-
pieces.
You want them at the next meeting?
Not the 19th.
Not the 19th.
No, but the next month from now?
Yeah, May 9th, I think it is. That would be appropriate because that's the last regular meeting we will have before town meeting. Though I'm sure we'll have a second meeting in May as well. So, any other?
So no motion needed to table, we can just bypass,
Yeah, we just,
don't act.
yeah, we need more information before we act.
That's fine.
All right, moving on. The last item on our new business agenda is approval of the architectural contract with Reed and Company Architects.
I move to approve the architectural contract with Reed and Company Architects for the library and allow the town manager to sign the contract.
Second for discussion purposes.
Thank you. All right, it's moved and seconded, and we're in discussion.
I have a hard time finding out how much we're gonna pay these guys.
Well, because there is no bottom line.
There is no bottom line. It's based on, it's a percentage, I think it's 8.8% of the total building design. It's the standard way architects work.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I couldn't even find that.
Where it is in the
It's,
contract.
yeah, it was in their proposal.
I mean, I saw the percentages about their percentage of the whole cost of the work, schematic design and construction.
Here we
That
go,
has a-
page 17,
Oh, okay.
hourly billing rates.
Yeah, but that doesn't say how many hours they're gonna have.
Well, because okay, we don't know. That's
I
the
understand
point.
that, but
It's based on a percentage of the total cost,
Right.
because that's the way that,
Until we get to a total cost, we don't really have a number.
Right.
Kind of, it's maybe not detracting, but page 16, that 11.4.
Yeah.
Compensation for additional services, and that's just a blank number.
That I assume is like if they have to hire a subcontractor.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be nice to know what that number is gonna be?
Compensation will be at cost, no additional markup.
Yeah, I get that one. It's, I guess I
I
don't see.
mean, there is no bottom line. We're not there
But
yet.
if the 8.8% is there, I guess I don't see it anymore.
Oh, I read
Kinda
that
would
better
like
now.
to see
Thank you.
that.
Thank you for that, Tracy.
Because I understand
Yeah.
that piece of it. That at least gives us a little bit of a cap. And right now, all I see is $150 an hour and no cap on hours or no idea how many hours it's gonna be.
You know what, I think it's no, that's additional services.
C rate. Maybe that's what you're looking for. 11.1, a lump sum fee for basic services will be determined based on the quote, State of Maine Architectural Project Schedule of Recommended Fees, C rate.
But we don't have
That's
that.
for lump sum fee.
What
for
is
basic
that?
service. Lump sums means just one cost, period. Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. I wanna,
It's
I know
the-
this is a lot of boilerplate.
It's all boilerplate, and it's the standard fee recommended by the
AIA.
AIA.
Yeah, I understand the, boilerplate. I just wish there was a number in there someplace. I mean, I would amend the motion, but if the 8.8% is what you think it is, I would put that in the motion and then allow you to sign.
Well, I wouldn't put the, I mean, yeah, you could say the standard percentage rate, but if we're wrong on the 8.8, all of a sudden we're
Yeah, I
saying,
suppose.
either it's not gonna happen or it's too much.
Yeah, and even reading backwards, I don't find it. 'Cause I
On
expected to see
on the
it-
theory that everybody else is reading forward, so you.
Well, no,
can
because I'm looking, I'm trying to, find the percent.
Right.
Because it would probably be spelled out in letters, then pairing like it is there on 11.4 on page 16.
You can do a PDF search.
Well,
Well, if we're nervous about that particular part of it, what do we lose in,
He's already working.
and he trusts your handshake?
But it would be
I mean,
nice.
I don't have any reason to think that they're gonna, screw us over or anything like that, but I mean, it's a responsibility to the taxpayers. I just feel like I need to have a number in there.
I don't remember where it was.
Yeah, because don't we also have a cap that if this goes down to failure at the November vote,
It's not necessarily a cap, that it's a,
$1,500 it said, we gotta
This
pay
is,
him
says you pay
$1,500 when we
$1,500.
agree on
And
the
I do remember
select
seeing something in here about if the project doesn't move forward, then you're liable for only what they've done so far, or
Right,
something
and
like
it's-
that.
That's 11.6, Ken, I think.
and it's 15%, and that is 15% of the 8.8%.
Ooh, so that's not,
So that's where the 40,000 comes up.
Right.
And it's all an estimate, because we don't know what the total project cost is gonna be.
okay. Where do we stand?
I
We
mean,
have a motion.
We have a meeting again next week. If we sign this a week later, is that gonna be a big deal?
I don't think so. Is it next week or the week
Well, it's-
after?
On
no,
the-
it's
on the
next-
18th, the
no,
19th.
19th, it's a week from tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
do we have
So-
council look at this?
No, it went through, I had John Schultz look at it.
So I would be
We'll
more
have him-
comfortable,
have him take
I
the
mean,
yellow
the
highlighter.
8.8% of the total cost, I would be okay with if it was in here someplace, but I can't find it.
Okay.
But maybe if you could ask them the question,
Okay.
whatever, and then we could put it
A
on the
motion
agenda
to
for-
table to a date certain overrides the motion that's on the floor, if there's a motion to table.
There is a motion to table, or there is a motion on the floor, so I will
Yes.
move to table this item until the
19th.
Tuesday,
Almost seems
the
like there's
April
something missing.
19th meeting.
Get through that?
Moved and-
Yeah.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Specifically looking for, a little bit more clarity in the fees that
Yeah.
we're gonna pay.
Both the overall percentage if it goes forward and the total amount that we're obligated to if it fails in November. So, the motion is to table. All in favor? That is unanimous. That concludes our regular agenda. Shall we go to liaison reports? And I'm gonna start right out here. Rick's evaluation's coming up. We need to have the evaluations, our component of it, that Tracy, no later than noon on Saturday, April 30th.
Got it.
Okay?
And you're gonna send out another copy of everything so that everybody has it in their hands again.
Okay.
Got it somewhere.
And also on that, I remind everybody that the executive session to go over the annual evaluation is scheduled for Monday, May 23rd, immediately following the wastewater budget workshop, which starts at 4 p.m. Okay? Couple of things here for next month's agenda. Owen, is the Recreation Committee in any way, shape, or form able to make any kind of a presentation to us at this date, or do they need to wait until like July or August?
Yeah, we would, I mean, they could come in and talk to you, but it would not be a formal presentation with actionable items
Did you
or.
follow up on that person?
I have been trying desperately
Oh,
to get
track her
out of,
down.
and I will, as
Okay.
soon as SAT Susan is over and I have my wife back to watch my kids.
Okay. Also, next month, it's been suggested that we task the Conservation Commission to be the pesticide advisory board. There was the pesticide ordinance passed 7, 8, 9 years ago, and it called for the establishment of a pesticide advisory board, and don't think it's ever been appointed. We're supposed to appoint one, and the easiest way would
before
be.
me.
Yes, I think it was.
I happened to find that when I was looking at the ordinance for their pesticide forum, which is coming up, so
Yeah.
it seems
But, yeah.
to make sense to have them
Yeah,
serve in
but,
that role.
You know, this will be, we'll talk about this. And then we also wanted to consider tasking ORC for a summer session. You know, we do have the sidewalk ordinance coming up, and maybe if we can get that done earlier rather than later. Ken, if you could query and see if there's anything else that needs to be accomplished over the summer.
Well, I think the road acceptance
Road
ordinance,
acceptance is
probably
fine,
those two
yeah.
things, I think, would be.
Yeah. There's also been a suggestion made that maybe we want to task the ORC with a little bit more than just pure land use ordinances, so we'll discuss that next month as well. I'm not sure what they would be, but.
Well, for example, the sidewalk ordinance and the road acceptance ordinance are technically not land use, or they're not part of the land use ordinance. Which is why they came here first, and then this committee, or this board seemed to want to, you know, have the ORC use their expertise and have a look at them.
Okay, so those are coming up.
I probably will miss next month's meeting. I think I told you, I don't know that I put it on there.
Oh, that's right, I saw a bunch up there on there that were coming up that yeah, you're right, I think you were on there.
I might be
Online.
back, I'm not sure. It's
Yeah.
my father-in-law's 90th birthday.
Oh, yeah, I think that, you know, it shows you, that's the last day you'd be missing, so, okay.
Town meeting.
I haven't been able to attend any of the Legacy Rockport meetings lately. I think you've actually attended more than I have.
I went today, I can report on that.
Okay. Library Committee, it's been the same way. We've had conflicts every time. The Library Planning Committee, one of the items that's going to be on the April 19th agenda, it'll be toward the end. They're asking for guidance on how rigid the 9750 number is. And, you know, we told them 9750, that's what
8750.
8750. We voted on that.
Square feet.
Square feet, as the usable space. You know, obviously, there's got to be a little bit of flexibility there, but some of them are looking for a great deal of flexibility. And I'd just like us to take the time and say, this is what we said. You know, I don't want it to keep coming back. You know,
I mean,
we're in the real push phase here right now.
Have the discussion next time, I guess.
Okay. Friends of the Rockport Library, Public Library are moving ahead. They are always looking for volunteers to help set up, especially that Tuesday and Wednesday. That would be, I'm going to find it, July 12th and 13th.
I'll be there that whole week.
Yeah, and they would also, you could always use it for, you know, when they're doing the work too. Like, you know, anybody like to volunteer, please, they would really appreciate it. Investment Committee meets the 21st of April. Our next Medco Solid Waste Board of Directors meeting isn't until June 22nd.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, so, I did attend a workshop, I guess you call it, on Maine millennials, and as soon as I get all my ducks in a row, I'm gonna send something out about it. It's about attracting them to your community and how to get them involved and get them to stay there or move there, so.
Craft beer.
Yeah,
Apparently.
actually, that was one of the things that, that a breakout session we had over lunch, and the guy that runs the one down in Booth Bay, no, he was down in Booth Bay, and he was talking about what, how it's just got so much. I said, oh, how much space do you need? Oh, we've got, for the restaurant, it's like 2,000, and for our beer manufacturing, it's like 2,000 square feet. Whoa. You're a lot smaller than Anheuser-Busch. But I'm going to write that
But
out,
after that
so.
growler, he had me convinced.
Who's next? Ken?
Conservation Commission will meet this Thursday, and their pesticide forum is coming up on Thursday, whatever it is, the last Thursday of this month, I believe it is, which will be here. And they've done a lot of work on it. They've a lot of emails. They've rounded up some speakers. They're going to have a presentation basically on how to control pests in your yard in organic ways without using as little chemical as possible. So they've had a good stretch. ORC is finished for the season. We will have those articles next Tuesday. There will be one minor change on the downtown district article. Did the planning board have that change about the 50-foot building heights?
Yeah, I think so.
So, okay, so there was one minor change after the draft articles were published, which they have I pointed it out to them. You can still change it. The draft articles are made available. They're just drafts, so a minor change will be coming for that. And as we spoke about, I think, tasking them over the summer or at least in the early fall to maybe handle the sidewalk ordinance and the road acceptance ordinance is appropriate. I don't know that the ORC has ever done their bylaws since I've been the liaison, and I think that we might want to do that. And as part of that discussion is what you brought up is how does this board want to define the ORC's role? Do we want to broaden it at all beyond the land use ordinances and have them look at other ordinances as well? That's something that I think we probably ought to discuss before we ask them to revise the bylaws. Cemetery has not met, but I assume we'll schedule a meeting sometime soon.
We will as soon as the assistant sexton comes back from vacation.
Okay. Good thought. I did meet with Legacy Rockport this afternoon. They had representatives from the Simonton Corner Hall in, and they are moving forward with building renovations there. They've got proposals and contractors and stuff like that to basically lift the building up and redo the foundation and do a lot of work there. They're talking with the neighboring property, and they talked about moving the building over a couple of feet, but I said, geez, if you do that, you're already non-conforming on the lot. It's going to trigger all kinds of things that you don't want to do.
I'd make it a couple of feet.
And that's Goose River's right there.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't have the setbacks they need either for
Right.
they're non-conforming.
Neighbor's barns almost in the
Also with
river.
Legacy Rockport, and maybe you want to put this on the calendar, Bill.
Oh, yeah, when?
The jazz concert is going to be here at the Opera House on July 23rd, Saturday. I believe it's going to be 7 in the evening. And that Legacy Rockport is going to do. They will then pass through the funds it'll be a fundraiser for the library. And there's the possibility that band might want to come back on an annual basis, in which case they've established a relationship with Legacy Rockport, and then Legacy Rockport the next year could perhaps earmark the donations for something else in town. Opera House seats or something was floated at one point. And I'm trying to remember if I have any other meetings. I don't think I do.
When was their next meeting? Did they set that?
Legacy Rockport?
Yeah.
They probably did, and I don't remember what it was.
I don't either.
Okay.
Rick was there.
I think they were still struggling of when the next meeting was, when they broke up.
They did have a full complement this time, though. The last meeting I went to, there were only 2 there.
Okay. Jeff?
Technology Committee, as we spoke before, is revving up for major infomercials and taking it on a bunch of different planes, both printed material, gatherings, online presence, some interesting aspects about, there's some very, very talented people on that. I'm not one of them. But even to the point of having someone go to a website and then figuring out what, in figuring out how much the potentially your service would be with Rockport having providing the fiber. You can do that, and you can plug in what it is you want. Do you want TV? Do you want Hulu? Do you want this, that, and the other thing? What speeds do you want? And what's the value of your house? And all of that would come up with a magic number. And so technology committee is meeting about once every 10 days as we can schedule our members to be there. The Opera House Committee had a wonderful meeting, which I blissfully slept through because my phone was doing other things. And so they talked about the lighting. Terry has gotten together with Tom Sadowski, who is a lighting designer around, and he has some thoughts about the future of the lighting upstairs. We understand there's nothing in the budget right now at all, but Terry's doing a great job of sort of lining up the informational aspect of it and strategy for the next big thing here, which would be theatrical lighting. And I'm sure that they talked about other things at that meeting. Yes, the monthly discussion on air conditioning and heating. And there's a big effort on marketing. Again, Terry spearheading that, and how do we get the most bang out for our buck, and then a recap of the library's concert and all the increase in the use of the facility.
Okay. Tracy?
Oh, you're gonna go with me. Okay, so today we delivered the food for the food drive that Camden and Rockport participated in. I think we took a significant amount of food over, and they were all prepared to accept it. And I believe we'll be on VSTV in the morning. He got some footage of us, and we are also talking about doing it again next year, which I think would be a great thing. It was not a competition.
The community.
The people who needed it won big.
That's right. So so that went well, and there was a interesting variety of foods, which is good too. I also, as part of that, talked to Don White and sent him to you, Jeff, about some broadcast stuff they're interested in doing in Camden. And he said, "Oh, you guys did all that stuff in Rockport." I said, "I do not know what we did in Rockport." Jeff knows what we did in Rockport. So if Don White gives you a call, that's what he's going to be
I was going to give up on
asking.
them considering their budget talks this. But yes, I'd be happy.
So I sent him to you. The planning board had their public meeting last week. I was the only member of the public there, so we did not have much discussion, but they did get through the items that they had. I don't think they made any changes. The ad hoc library planning committee, you guys have seen what happened. And between that and with Midco Solid Waste, I have to say that I've spent a ton of time with Rick, and we actually made both of those decisions in the same day. And I wondered why I felt like I'd been beaten with a stick, and it's because of all of the meetings leading up to those two decisions that were made on that day. But I think everybody knows what we've done. The ad hoc library planning committee did meet with Dick Reed last week and got to sit down and talk to him. And that's where this question came up about the size of the library. He basically said, with site plan, the largest footprint we could get on that piece of property is 4,000 square feet, which means a two-story building at most could be 8,000 square feet, including unassignable spaces. And with that piece of information, I tried to get the committee to say that that wasn't going to work, that in some way or fashion, we were going to have to go with a three-story building to get the amount of space that we were asked about. a couple of members of that committee, for the first time, and we've been meeting for months, asked, why do we have to have it that big? I found that to be a quite shocking question, given how much we've talked about these programming needs, because they're literally, one of them actually said, well, can't we just close the children's area and use it for something else because kids don't come in the afternoons? And I went, where did that
This
come
person
from?
never had any children.
I
guessing.
went, I don't know where that came from. And Ben said, that doesn't really work like that. So I would definitely like continued support of the programming number that we sent down when we started, with the realistic caveat that if you can find places where you can overlap, then that is something we should talk about. But at this point, there are no such places. You're just simply crossing out cat and putting in dog, rather than finding a better, a more
Efficient use.
efficient use. I mean, there are some things like that we've talked about, and but none of those are huge. And then the other question is once we decide to build 3 stories, does it make sense to make one of those stories less than a full story? And in my opinion, that doesn't really make sense, because you already have to have a roof. Yes, your HVAC systems have to be bigger, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, once you've built a building, it doesn't really do a lot of good to have half a story, because you can't really get it back later. You can't recoup that space 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. That doesn't make sense to do. So I didn't think we needed to revisit it, but we do have a couple of members of this committee that suddenly feel a need to have a 6,000 square foot library. And that's not what we asked them to do, and that's not the task that I feel like I'm part of that committee for.
Okay, yeah. And we definitely don't want to get into building something that we're going to have to add on to before the mortgage is paid off.
Yes.
Did back to the planning board, did they pass they recommend all the articles?
They did. And they did have some questions about what some of them were, and, Jamie explained it to them. There were, 5 of them, I think?
I can't remember.
So it went pretty smoothly. I don't think I saw any wordsmithing. What I did, what the group talked about, and what I also mentioned, and I also talked to Rick about it, was that we really need to have a one sheet that's available when, absentee ballots are ready, that basically has 3 sentences about what does this mean. When it says height requirements in blah, blah, blah district, blah, 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 that means nothing to the average person. And the same thing with the private way thing, that basically is, if it's 2 houses in a private way, that the planning office can make a decision, it doesn't have to come to the planning board.
Right.
But if it's 3 lots or more, it has to go through the planning board as a family subdivision, is what they're called. So I hope that we can direct Rick and his team to do something like that, because we are gonna have a lot of things on the ballot in June that we as a town are putting on, and having the ability to have a succinct couple of lines, what does this mean to you, I think is useful.
Okay.
I think that was it.
Okay. Owen?
So the first thing I would like to bring up is the passing of Greg Eaton. I don't know if everyone is aware of that. Greg was the neighbor at Marge Jones. He was the Bob Hops kind of stand-in to unlock and lock the gate. He was by far and away the best neighbor I've ever had, and this community is less because he's gone. But he really did impact a lot. I've been running across a lot of people that he impacted. He's just one of the nicest guys. So I just wanted to get that out there real quick. For the rec committee, we met. The plan was to, approve bylaws, tie up all the loose strings of standing the committee up. But then I happened across Pat Finnegan, had a conversation with her, said what I got was supposed to set something for April to liaison between Camden and Rockport, and she said, well, maybe I could get some people to come to your meeting. So I revamped the agenda to recognize that Beth Ward, who is the Assistant Parks and Rec Department Director, and their Parks and Rec Committee Chair, whose name I can't remember, they were both there. So we had a good conversation. Not a ton came from it, but at least now people on the Camden side of the town line, they understand what we're trying to work on and what maybe it would look like in the future, collaboration between the two towns. It is extremely useful to have them there. They can talk about things that don't, the replacement of the fields when it's too wet, what it looked like when football season came in after a rainstorm. So really good information there. We're trying to work on the rec committee the best that we can. Pathways committee, couple things. Their work groups that they broke out, they're still trying to push for that. They didn't meet last time, so they're saying if the individual work groups can't meet together, we're going to have to go back to the old way that it was. We thought that this way would work, breaking things out. They broke it into Route 1 North Corridor, Route 90 Corridor, Riverwalk, and I believe the Maritime Farms by the Hannaford, Camden, Rockport town line. So there's their work groups. They're going to try to reinvigorate them. We spent a lot of time talking about what's going on in Camden, so I'll just briefly gloss over it because it's related to the whole committee. They just feel that the MDOD did what they normally do, which is try to have their public hearing and community engagement in 6-point font in the corner of the paper that no one reads, so no one came. And now they're proposing a lot of stuff to do, and then they'll present it to the town and say, this is what we're going to do, and the town's going to go, well, did you think about this and that? But by the time they get there, their engineer plans are... So there's a lot of, how can we kindly and gently ask MDOT to maybe have another listening tour so we can just get our look and feel to it. And then Jeff Scott's wife, Anita Scott, came from the budget committee. So the first half was about Route 1 North. Anita came. Anita had spent a lot of time talking to an MDOT rep that's working on the Maritime Farms portion from basically just south of Corey Hill down to just what will now be just past Leonard's. So it won't stop at Leonard's. It will continue on. Rick spun up on when they're going to do a site evaluation or site survey or whatever it is the MDOT is going to be. There's going to be representatives from both Camden and Rockport. It was interesting to see MDOT's approach to how they were going to get from the Corey Hill side of Corey Hill, because that Camden Street portion where it flares out makes it difficult. It's a longer distance for people to walk across. So they wanted to come down from Corey Hill just a little bit, cut over with a pedestrian activated light over Route 1. And this is the MDOT people by that Rock Crest or whatever that hotel is right there. Then continue and cross over by John Street, not Camden Street, go down to the Hannaford, and then cross back over Route 1 at the Hannaford light because you can do things with the lighting there to get you to the Maritime Farms. It will go past Maritime Farms, past Leonard's, and then end somewhere near the end, the next road past Leonard's or the next driveway past Leonard's. Other pertinent things to that discussion was if we upgrade the lighting pattern, just general upgrades, which it's actually at a scheduled upgrade, similar to Route 90, Route 1, 17 and 90, where it's not going to be a cost to us. MDOT was saying, well, we have to upgrade the lights there, so that will come out of your overall project costs, to which we were like, it's a standard upgrade. That shouldn't come out of our costs.
Right. Yeah.
So we're trying to figure that out. So, because all of that cost that you put into other places minimizes the length of the pathway. So,
when I dropped something off there for Helen, you said that we were going to have something on our, you're going to give something to me for the April 19th
meeting.
Did you give it to me? I don't remember
Nope.
you sending me
Jeff
anything.
was going to generate that. That was a Jeff generated thing. And what it's going to be is, remember when we had the joint select board meeting and I showed you that little piece of paper?
Yeah.
Basically, they want that exact same thing, just even more professional and more comprehensive to address all the
Is
nuances.
this something we need to take a vote on?
Because it somehow helps.
Okay, well,
It helps
I
get
need to know
grants
something to
and
put
such.
on the agenda.
Yep, and I will reach out to Jeff and we will get it to you within days
Okay.
or a day. Jeff's really good about that stuff. He just needs a gentle reminder. And like I said, Aaron Brainerd, it will eventually trickle down. But from the Rockport side of our joint, we now have one vacancy and our 2 alternate positions are also vacant. So there is the possibility of 3. And one interesting side note, every time the Pathways people proposed someone that could fill that vacancy, I said, so they kind of made a commitment to come onto the rec committee, and then they would propose someone else, and I'd say, so I'd talk to that person. And it's because there's so much overlap and there are vacancies in both that it's really easy to draw from the same pool of people. So I believe at the, in the next month or 2, both committees will be fine and fully populated. And parks, you just heard from them, they've been off for the winter, and the first meeting is not on the 12th, it's actually on the 13th.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you find out about meeting changes from what I put on there, because I'm just going on, it's gonna be every month on that day. If they're gonna change it, let me know.
And I believe they'll go back onto that. They're reevaluating because of loss of some members or like members' husbands or wives shifting things. It opens their schedule. So they're trying to figure out where they'll go for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Did Pathways talk about the sidewalk ordinance at all?
So that was one of the kind of not got to byproducts of focusing on that Route 1 and then the maritime. Jeff and I have both looked over it. Helen's looked over it. A lot of people are very comfortable with the things that you put on. I did have to leave the meeting early. Someone pulled into the driveway and my wife got freaked out and called and the dog was freaking out. So I left about half an hour early of the 2-hour meeting. There's the potential they got to it, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, if I see Jeff, I'll ask him.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be reaching out to him to get information too, so I'll try to get whole notes and everything from it. But it appeared as though they were going to spend the remainder of the meeting talking about Maritime Farms, Hannaford area.
As I recall, last time DOT tried to do something in Camden, they all chained themselves to trees along Route 1 north from the library, and DOT came around.
Are we done?
I think we are. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Good, thank you all.
One opposed.